why this individual deserves this award, they'll give. Taker, this individual's a giver. I do thank Courtney Marsh for helping me. Had it not been for Courtney, I wouldn't have found out all these details, but I want to share a few things with you about this individual before I give her name. She's been in the community for many years, helping those who struggle with addictions, those who are homeless and in poverty. She's a registered peer recovery coach that's walked alongside many local residents in their time of need. As the cold season came around, and it was upon us, she connected with a local church that provided her space to use to provide and make hot meals for those that were in need. And she did very well with this, and she was serving over 100 meals a day, use that space. She did as well as many community members were devastated. She was hurt by that, and others were too. But this didn't deter her from continuing on with her determination to help others. She started collecting items for those that were less fortunate, items such as blankets, gloves, hats, hand warmers, and after collecting those items and bagging them, she delivered them around the city for those that were without, those that didn't have a place to shelter from the weather in the wintertime. Now, I'm going to stop and ask a question. How many of you did that this past year or the year before? Some of you have. I think that all of the local churches probably have put forth an effort to do things like that. But I wonder what would happen if we all had a heart like she has. What a difference would be made in our community. What Muncie would be known for, a community of love and care for all residents. Now, I'm not picking on anyone. I just want you to think about that for just a moment. After she dropped off all those items, things that she had left over, she donated the remaining blankets to the Norm. And they offered around-the-clock weather protection for those who needed it in our community. Recently, an amazing community resource helped make connection with her to help with a place to call her own. Jeanette shared with us in February at the council meeting about that blessing. She opened a warming station for the remaining cold season and for those in need of assistance. Jeanette's goal is to provide a nice, clean space for individuals to come in from out of the weather, whether it be cold or even hot, having shower facilities, laundry facilities, home. Her place is called Fiona's Place, located on South Liberty. She's doing all this and has for quite a few years now, while going through her own personal difficulties. She'd mentioned to us at the last meeting in February that she's on hospice. I wonder how many of us have a heart committed to that. We could all learn from her example, leaving this city better than we found it. Tonight's Citizen of the Month award goes to Jeanette Presley. Would you come forward?
This award. I was shocked. Had a place that she and her family could have went to for help. That maybe she wouldn't have hung herself up looking for a place. I had a lot of run-ins with churches and decided I'm going to go away from that and not deal with that anymore. And I had a gracious gentleman who wants to stay anonymous to drop a house in my lap that was beautiful, wonderful, and ready to be used, that I didn't have to do anything to. And so, so I moved a bed in, moved myself and my partner and dogs in, and started taking people in. So the gentleman in the back row, stand up, guys. These gentlemen stay at Fiona's place for when it's cold and it's bad and it's below 29 degrees. They know that my door is open and they can come in. So these gentlemen live on the streets of Muncie, and we need to do better for our people. These gentlemen have checks. They can afford an apartment if we just had affordable housing to put them in. That's right. So, yes. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Okay, we're going to have, before we get into our business, I've got to bring Yvonne Thompson up here. That she's going to introduce children as essays for you to hear.
Good evening. My name is Susan Fisher. I work at Muncie Public Library, but I'm a volunteer with the MLK Dream Team. And I am, give that to Ed. And I'm also joined here tonight with two of our Dream Team members, Yvonne Thompson and also Mr. Ed McNeary. And thank you. The reason we're here tonight is to celebrate part of our Black History Month kickoff that took place the first Saturday of February with the help of Menetrista. It was a wonderful event, and one of the highlights of the event is the essay contest. And literally, we had hundreds of essays submitted from schools all through the county. So what we do at that event is celebrate the students whose essays were judged as the winning essays. And we do that with the help of Northwest Bank. So these kids get honored, they read their essays at the event, and they also get a nice little gift of cash from Northwest Bank. So we're excited about that. Yvonne, do you want to?
I just want to say thank you to the city of Muncie, to Menetrista, to the different partnerships that continually keep the Black History Month celebration going. It is exciting. It is stimulating to see all of the creative talent and beautiful history that Muncie, and not just Muncie, but the United States, what we have.
For sure. Ed, do you want to say anything?
Yes, I guess. I would just like to say I'm glad to be a member of the MLK Dream Team. And as Yvonne was saying, I just one day hope before I'm gone that you have Black History 365 days a year. Thank you.
That's right.
We're also joined tonight by two of our essay winners, and with your indulgence, we'd like to have them come forward and read their essays. The first one is Annabelle Shen. She's a 5th grader at Westview Elementary, and her teacher is Christine Castaneda. Annabelle?
How can I be an ambassador for peace in my community? There are many ways I can show peace in my community. Many people like Martin Luther King Jr. have shown peace and changed the world by doing it. But you don't have to be famous to change your community or the world. One thing I can do in my community is volunteer. Small businesses and shops would benefit greatly from even just extra window cleaning. You can go to animal shelters and take care of pets, a really fun job. I can volunteer at food pantries to distribute food to people in need, not only volunteering for a community, but helping people who need it most in my community too, which is the next thing. Something else that I can do is donate to shelters, like animal shelters and shelters for people on the streets. Donating even just a small amount of food or money can greatly help shelters expand their community and take in more animals and people. But you don't have to go places either or do things to show peace in a community. You can show it at school, at home, and outside. You can work hard and be kind at school, and you will make the school a better place. At home, you can do small things to make the world for your siblings or your parents. For example, before your parents wake up, or if they're away, surprise them by doing household chores, like cleaning your room or anything like that. Outside, you can get mail for your neighbor, walk your dog, or help hose down a bike or car for your parents. There are many ways to show peace in a community, and anyone can do it. Union, peace, and agreements are powerful, and once one person steps up, they can create a whole wave of peace, making the world a better place, one piece at a time. Peace begins with a smile. Mother Teresa.
Very good. Congratulations, Annabelle. And we just appreciate your take, your suggestions on being an ambassador of peace. So,
You're welcome. And now I would also like to introduce from our middle school division, we have Gwendolyn Christofield. She's a sixth grader at Northside Middle School, and her teacher is Megan Santine. Gwendolyn, are you here? Oh.
I can contribute to bringing peace to my community by creating more opportunities for people to engage in activities together, therefore promoting harmony and reducing instances of conflict. For introverted individuals who may not be comfortable participating in group activities, I can establish a reading space where they can spend time alone. In addition, I can create peaceful affirmation stickers and display them throughout the town to encourage people to treat each other with kindness and respect. These are just a few examples of things I can do to make a more balanced and peaceful community. To me, peace means a place where there is little or no violence, people treat each other with kindness, and where there is a sense of calm and trust. So I think a place that has little or no violence, where people treat each other with kindness, and there is a sense of calm and trust sounds great. As a student, I believe that I can also contribute to promoting peace in my school by engaging in activities that bring students together, regardless of their backgrounds. For instances, I can organize a cultural exchange program where students can learn about each other's cultures and traditions. This can help to foster a sense of understanding and respect for each other, which can go a long way in promoting peace. Furthermore, I can also volunteer my time and skill to assist those who may be struggling with personal issues or conflicts. By being a good listener and offering support, I can help to lessen some of the stress and tension that may be contributing to their problems. In conclusion, There are many ways I can bring peace to the community and school, like creating an opportunity for people to engage in activities together.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I say something, Mr. President? Are we got, are both moms here? That's amazing to see the next generation like that, and that starts at home. So I want to applaud the kids, but I also want to applaud the moms for that too. So thank you.
I don't think we have any board appointments tonight, so we'll move on to,
Roll call.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let's go into roll call.
Mason,
Here.
Selby,
Here.
McIntosh,
Here.
Green,
Here.
Howell,
Here.
Garrett,
Here.
Gullion,
Here.
Basham,
Here.
Fishman.
Now, the board appointments, I don't think we have any tonight. We need to go into approval of the minutes or any changes of last February 5th meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Green,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yeah.
Mason,
Yes.
Basham,
Yes.
McIntosh,
Yes.
Gullion,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Fishman.
Yes. Do we have any committee reports? Ms. Powell?
Mr. President, it's not really a committee report, but I have invited Mr. Kiesling here from AEP to discuss the Tillotson project. And I would like to request allowing him to speak now so that we can be respectful of his time.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Kiesling?
Good evening, Rob Kiesling, Indiana Michigan Power. Members of the council, Councilwoman Powell, thank you for your invitation to speak regarding our recently announced and started project on Tillotson. We're in the process of rebuilding an existing underground transmission line that connects our substation at University in Tillotson to the substation on the north side of Ball State's campus. The project does require double lane closures on Tillotson, as well as intersection closures for the safety of our workers. We are moving the project in segments from south to north at the station at University in Tillotson until we exit road right-of-way at York Prairie Creek. So as we move along, the traffic plan will move along as well. One of the things that makes this project is unique is the timing with the city, as we've been in close coordination with Mayor Ridenour and his team, as we've worked to, we're well aware of the city's upcoming paving plan and project in 2025, I believe, for Tillotson. If the mayor could speak to the impact of this project as it coordinates together in what we are doing. Mayor, do you have anything to? Oh, it's faster than he planned.
Don't take this personal, but I know Rob well enough. I never dreamed he'd finish that early. So, but no, they did move this work to help coordinate with our paving plan, and Tillotson is on the schedule for next year. And this will save us money. Obviously, it does create some delays until their portion is done, and then next year there'll be further delays as we actually do that paving work on Tillotson. But we're excited with AEP. They've been a good partner, and we are thankful that they've moved it forward, and it will save us money, which is another positive for the city. So thank you.
Questions for either of us?
Mr. Kiesling, can you speak to any outages that residents may expect?
So this station or this project will not cause or should not cause any outages to residents or businesses in the area.
Any that come up will be notified by?
So when we have outages, we typically do a phone blast 72 hours in advance. Sometimes it's longer, but again, this project does not have any outages anticipated.
And then the time frame for the project?
So we start now. We plan to be, our permit with Mr. Leach goes through the end of the year.
Okay.
There will be some activities throughout. This is part of a larger project, but the Tillotson part, we would like to be out of road right of way by November. Other questions? Yeah.
One more.
Oh, of course.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Am I to understand from what Mayor Ridenour was saying and what you're saying that when you're finished, you will be completing the paving, or will it just allow us to complete the paving more sooner than expected?
Certainly, and Mayor Ridenour will chime in as he would like. Adam Leach, city engineer, has requested all utilities do some repaving when they're doing underground work. They've been very diligent at holding us to that with our permits. We are repaving the 2 northbound lanes from University area where we come out to just south of York Prairie Creek when we leave. So about just over a mile of total lane distance.
All right. And thank you, Mayor.
Anything?
Dan, I got a question for you. Are you going to have other utilities in there doing their work too?
I think most of the others are ready to go. There was a lot of work done with the gas company and the water company already. So I believe we're ready to go with our project next year.
That's a little pet peeve of mine. You get a new
Yes.
street and they come in and cut it up.
Well, and that's one of the reasons Riverside, for example, took so long, is we were not going to put that road in until all the utilities were finished. And as much as we would like for them to be as on our time schedule, sometimes their staffing needs require it to be on theirs. So, but we should be okay. We don't want to cut into a brand new paved road.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I have a question for Mr. Kiesling. As you go through, and you're doing this, I assume, 2-3 blocks at a time, or and then you'll.
So we will be completing in segments and sections. So as we move along, we will shift our work zone. So it won't be that entire distance at once, Mr. Green, but rather we'll be coming out and then move a little further north, and move along.
Now, will there be, when you complete that block, will there be a level street for people to drive on? Is there a possibility that there's going to be a road difference of 1 inch or 2 inches? Will there be a road hazard? What about the catch basins and the lids that go on top of the sanitary sewers? A lot of times they're not even level, they're pitched, and all sorts of things happen. Will that affect your work? Will you be into that?
So there'll be some temporary repairs until we can come back and fully mill. The city has requested that we do a 2-inch mill and repave upon completion. So, but there will be some temporary items until that occurs.
But it will not be a hazard for those that are traveling on the streets.
That is not our intent. Yes.
Okay.
But there will probably be warning signs.
There will be a lot of warning signs throughout.
Okay.
That the level of the pavement could be different. So drive with caution.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you all for your patience and understanding. We look forward to a freshly repaved Tillotson next year.
Thank you, Mr. Kiesling. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting him, North.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, we're moving into ordinance previously introduced, ordinance 1-24.
Ordinance 124 is an ordinance for additional appropriations from the fire department EMS.
Anybody here from the fire department want to speak on this?
Good evening. As we spoke last month, and then several of you I've spoken to individually about the situation. So if you have any questions, I mean, obviously there's a lot to this that, as you know, we cannot answer. But if there are some questions, we can do our best. But I know our council has been in contact with your council as well, and they have spoken about this. And I believe he brought you guys up to speed with what we could going forward. So,
Anybody wishing to speak on the council? Anybody from the audience?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 1-24.
Second.
Been a motion to adopt Ordinance 1-24 and second. Roll call, please.
Basham?
Yes.
McIntosh?
Yes.
Selby?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Mason?
Yes.
Garrett?
Yes.
Gillian?
Yes.
and Bishop.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to new ordinances. Ordinance 2-24.
Ordinance 2-24 is an ordinance of the City of Muncie, Indiana, authorizing the issuance and sale of bonds of the city and, if necessary, bond anticipation notes for the purpose of providing funds to be applied on the cost of constructing a new fire station, together with all related improvements, equipment, and incidental expenses in connection therewith, and on account of the issuance of bonds therefore.
Anybody here wishing to speak on that?
There could be a small group of people to speak on this. So we've got bond counsel, we have our financial advisor, the fire department is here as well. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things just to make sure everybody's current on this. So back in 23, before any of you took office, with the exception of Jerry and Roe, because you were already in office, and Jeff, Mr. Green, who were already in, and Brandon, so 4 of you. But the point was I offered, and we did meet with all the council members. We made that offer and did go over what we were attempting to do with the fire stations. Got a number of questions, provided some additional answers to those questions. We also provided, and it had been on the website since our city website, since maybe August or September when we provided it to the council, the previous council, which was the 300-page study that had been done by the committee. But we provided a lot of details, studies, and we answered all the questions that we received. I know many of you talked with firefighters, with the union leadership, with the fire chief, and others. And that was before your meeting in January. The end result of that, thank you to Mr. Gibson for some wording changes, was a unanimous vote at that meeting to move forward, which we have done. Since that, a couple of weeks ago, I provided, probably more like 10 days ago, I provided an email to all of you. One has come out and told me today that they're not getting, my emails are not getting through to them. So I can provide written if needed. But the others, I believe, have received it. I've had some who have asked questions, many who have not, directly to me. But I know other conversations have been going on. But we provided the final rendering after speaking with the city engineer. It was determined that the best road cuts would change the design a little bit, and that the bays would go on the south end of the building and the living quarters would go on the north end. That was opposite of what we showed in January, so I felt like you deserved to have the new rendering, so we provided that. And the site plan, how it fit on the actual location. Also, we did provide a schematic design narrative. It was a 16-page document. We provided that to you as well, which got into a lot of detail. Some people, probably Councilman Garrett and Councilman Green, probably really appreciated a lot with their backgrounds. But the rest of you may not have as much, but it got into a lot of little details on size of pipes and all kinds of things. So we tried to provide that. We also, we did go to the Parks Board, and they unanimously endorsed the development, the project, knowing that they're going to be without a little bit of space in the park during construction. Once that building is finished, the current building will be torn down, and then they can take that particular space. So it's going to be a swap, but it will be inconvenient for the Parks Department during the construction. I just want you to know that we've already been to the parks and done that. I have a letter that each of you, I think, received from the union president. I don't, it's not probably part of the public record, so if it's all, I'd kind of like to read it. So this is vacation week for many people. And so Jason couldn't be here, and I'm just going to read. I'm writing the correspondence today regarding the upcoming ordinance that is being introduced Monday for the bond issuance to pay for the building of the new fire station number 6 at McCullough Park. As I have communicated before, and I believe everyone agrees, that having a plan to replace the dilapidated fire stations is essential. I have previously described the years-long firefighter-driven process that went into getting to where we are today with this plan of action. I, as do my members, understand that when spending and committing funds from taxpayer resources, it's never an easy decision and proper diligence is required for your trusted positions. Hopefully by this juncture, you have been able to investigate this ordinance and have found the same merits of moving forward as we have. The funding of this project is primarily funded through edit funds that the administration is pledging to repay this bond. I personally am biased, but I really cannot think of a better way to spend these dollars. Not only have we all agreed that there's a dire need for a station replacement, but by doing so, we also make the fire station a beacon of the neighborhood like it is supposed to be. Pride in place and pride in community can be traced directly to the infrastructure that's provided. In this case, it will be the east side neighborhoods of Whiteley, Industry, and Morningside. If we keep going, the next station would be station number 5 on the northwest side, and new station 3 and remodels to others would follow. In reality, this has to be done in some fashion, or the stations we have in place will get truly unlivable and non-functional. This is the plan we firefighters worked on with the administration and the previous council came up with. I know you will hear from some that we could do it cheaper. We could do it a bit differently with a lower bid taking priority. However, when you get to how we pay for it, I explained in the process in the detail in an earlier email, which I'm not going to read, but that he apparently had sent to you guys on the council. This plan is in a long-lasting functional fire station overseen by a company that builds fire stations. In conclusion, I will not be able to attend the city council meeting in person on Monday, as I will be in Washington, D.C. lobbying for the IAFF union leaders across the country for issues for safety and health of my colleagues. However, I implore you to successfully introduce this ordinance and keep the process moving forward. Thank you so much for being willing to serve our community with us. Any questions or concerns, I always try to have my phone on me for email, text, and calls. Jason Chafin, President of the IAFF Local 1348. So I just wanted to read that. And then a couple other things, and then we'll get to bond counsel and so forth. I want to remind everyone that these bonds will be paid from edit funds. There are some council members who have expressed a frustration that on where some edit funds has gone. Well, this will pull several $100,000 for a bond payment from those edit funds, and I think this is a great source, personally. It does provide a couple of things that I think are very important. And I also want to make it clear that no other city department will be getting reduced funding because of the edit funds paying for this. Again, no other city department will receive less money because edit is making this payment. Edit funds are making this payment. Number one, this provides better safety for the neighborhood. That station is an island by itself. When there are trains going behind it that block McGalliard, Centennial, Highland, and Weiser, there is no obvious, easy support for this station and that neighborhood and those school children and everyone else that's on the northeast side. So that safety is for the neighborhood, but it's also safety for our firefighters. And I think they've expressed this a number of times. I know you've had conversations on that. Some of these stations are deplorable. The living conditions are not good for our multi-gender firefighters. We do not have separate quarters. It's just not an ideal situation. And I think everybody agrees to that. The other reason that one of the reasons we have remained firm in building a top-notch, first-class facility is for retention of firefighters. We continue to be pounded and lose firefighters and EMS employees to other counties, primarily to our west, that pay more. This is a commitment that they will see, they will understand, they will be proud of, and they will think that we as a fire department and a city are going a different direction when it comes to the protection of our citizens and protection of those firefighters' safety. It will also help in recruiting. We do not currently have a station that's ideal for bringing firefighters, potential firefighters to recruit firefighters. They are stuck with, we talked to them about, I mean, station number 1 has been recently remodeled in the last 5 years or so, but the other stations are all 1985 or older, some better condition than others, but it will help with recruiting. It will allow us to bring firefighters to, let's go to our newest station, take a look at it, look at this equipment. This is what we're planning for the future. Now, it'll take decades to get that in all stations, but this is the direction we're going as a city. It will definitely help with that. It will also help develop the Whiteley neighborhood, the other Northeast Side neighborhoods, and that MLK corridor. There are a number of things already happening behind the scenes on that, and I can't. There will be other things along there. And MLK is one of the streets that's also getting paved this year. And so we want to make sure that this station is something that is a shining light for that neighborhood. And so that's one of the reasons I don't want to cut it. I don't want to do a cheap station. I don't want to do anything that looks like a barn or a pole barn. This has to recruit and retain and provide the safety for the citizens and our firefighters. Is it the least expensive way to do it? No. Is it the best way to do it? In my opinion, yes. And EDIT is paying for it. So I ask you to please bring up whatever questions you have. My hope is that this will move forward to the next step, just like Mr. Chafin said, that it will be introduced tonight and we can move forward to the next step. So we have here bond counsel, our financial advisor, and fire chief and EMS chief. Why don't you all come up and take over? I don't know what parts you want to discuss.
We need to make a motion
Thank you.
to introduce before we have a discussion.
Hi, I'm Jacob McClellan with Bose, McKinney & Evans. I don't have too much to add there. I'll tell you what the bond ordinance does technically. So it authorizes bonds in an amount of not to exceed $8,700,000, and if necessary, bond anticipation notes. It incorporates parameters received from Baird, includes that the rate will not exceed 7%. And a discount for the bonds would not exceed 2%. The term would not exceed 20 years. As referenced, this would pay for the replacement of fire station number 6. It will be payable, the bonds would be payable primarily from EDIT. And to the extent EDIT's insufficient, it would be payable from a property tax backup. The ordinance provides a form of bond. It authorizes the marketing of the bonds, an official statement related to the bonds, and a reserve for the bonds if necessary to sell the bonds. As far as timing, assuming you introduce tonight, the other part of this would be the appropriation ordinance. We'd put out a notice and you guys would have a public hearing at your next meeting. During the month of April, we'd work on marketing the bonds. Tentatively, bonds could be sold in late April with funds available kind of mid-May. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions from bond counsel perspective, or I can turn it over to Bob Swintz.
Point of order. I think do we need to introduce this before the council can discuss? Is that Robert's? That's
No, well, we just make a motion to introduce, don't we?
right. Well, exactly. So
I'd like to make a motion to introduce.
I'm sorry, I was talking.
Ms. Rowe,
Yes.
you're out of order.
Oh, okay.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to introduce ordinance
2-1.
2-24.
Do we need a second?
Second.
Okay.
There's been a motion to accept and
Introduce.
introduce and to Second it.
Now we discuss.
Do we need a roll call, please?
We discuss.
Is it all aye?
No, now we discuss.
Oh, okay. I'm ready to get on.
Okay, I can turn it over to Bob then, if that's okay. Go ahead, Bob.
Good evening. I'm Bob Swins with the London Witty Group, and we will serve as municipal advisor for the city. Jacob mentioned R.W. Baird is the investment banker who will be responsible for selling or placing the bonds for the city. Jacob talked about the parameters not to exceed numbers. I would just say that at this point in time, based on the last numbers we received from Baird, we're looking at an interest rate of about 4.6%. Would create a debt service payment of about $730,000. And that would go against the certified distribution of edit this year of $4.6 million. There are some other bonds that are outstanding that have an edit pledge of around $800,000. So the edit will be used for those purposes. As Jacob said, this is just the first step in the process. I believe the next meeting would be April 1st, where we'd come back for, assuming that you would want to go forward, for approval of the ordinance and a public hearing on the appropriation. And with that, I could answer any of the financial questions that you may have.
President, I have a question. Will that 4.6% be locked fixed rate?
When we sell the bonds, the interest rate will be fixed for the 20-year period.
Okay.
I can't guarantee it's going to be 4.6% because we're not going to be in the market for probably 30 days or more. So
now you're looking at 4.6.
Right. Hopefully we get some of those interest rate reductions the Fed talked about.
So you anticipate it going down and not up?
I'm hoping they come down and not up.
That was my question.
I have. You had mentioned, or the other gentleman had mentioned, that they're pledging lit revenues to pay debt service on the bonds. And if those lit revenues are insufficient, property taxes will be used?
A property tax levy would be the backup source of payment. If all of your lit revenues went away, or the edit portion of lit, then a property tax would be needed to make those payments.
Okay, and so then I feel like edit and lit are used interchangeably here. So one is what, and in my understanding, so it could be my just not knowing how you're referring to these things, that there's the edit dollars, which are mostly the mayor's discretionary funds. And then there's the lit, which in my understanding, is the local income tax, which is what we usually bring in for public safety.
Right.
And so could you, because it's, again, used interchangeably in here, and which fund will this be coming out of?
So lit revenues is an assortment of different, you have the certified shares, you have the edit shares, the public safety shares. In this ordinance, we are defining the pledged revenues as the economic development income tax portion of the lit. So we're not looking to the certified shares or any of the other shares to make those payments.
So these payments will not be coming out of Fund 104, 105, 106, any of those public safety funds?
I don't know the fund numbers, but I assume that's correct.
Is okay. I guess we'll wait for that answer.
If you're all right with that, I'll step up. We have committed some funds out of 104. Obviously, we're committed to this program and the obvious need for this, and we are willing to support this. And out of our Center Township funds, we have committed up to $250,000 for bond payment annually to help support this. And then I can speak some more in a minute. I mean, these guys, the information these guys are talking about.
I have another question. Not necessarily for you, but I'll just ask. So that you will be pledging your 104 funds, will that be in addition to the mayor's edit dollars?
I can say what we have committed, and then the mayor has committed edit dollars. I don't know what the total payment was going to be, so that's
Mayor
not.
Ridenour, is that in addition to the edit dollars that you've committed, or?
The total? I mean, the total payment.
I'm just,
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's an excellent question. So the fire department was very committed to making this happen. They said, we've seen previous administrations from both parties over the years say they were going to do something. And so they said, we will put in X amount. They said 250,000, that was for 2 stations. Right. So I'm expecting 125,000. So in my edit budget, I have 650,000 put aside for 25, 26 and beyond. So they intend to put, my expectation is the EMS funds or the 104 funds will be putting in 125,000. I'm not having them pay the full 250 because that was, they said 250 for the 2 stations. So it just seemed fair and right to me to just have them do 125.
so again, just for clarification, will the station number 5, which is actually the station that is ill-equipped to hold the apparatus for my neighborhood, for my district, will that be coming, or will that, so the 250,000, is that still pledged? And does that mean that you'll have
2026, but I'm not certain that that's going to happen. So it kind of depends on the council. But for 25, I have the money for this particular station set aside. But they committed 250, so my expectation is that they will put in 125 of the payment.
per station?
And they'll put in 125 for Station 5.
And so then if funds aren't sufficient, because right now we don't know what else is coming out of those funds. I don't know what else is committed from those funds, from edit funds, from 104. And so before the next meeting, can we have a breakdown?
Well, in January, I supplied my annual budget to the clerk's office, so it's there, but I can provide each of you a copy of that, but the clerk has that. It's a requirement, and we do submit that. And it does have the fire station in there.
It does.
Because you have to do a 2-year budget.
And then, so will that have your edit plan in it as well?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like it has every year. We certainly do that.
Okay.
It's a requirement, and we do follow that.
And then,
But there's only currently about $800,000 committed through debt.
right.
So this will take it up to about 1.45 per year. And when we get the second station, it'll take it up to it'll take it up over 2 million, which is about half of the edit funds.
Okay. And then
in the end,
if unfortunately, and again, Chief,
Sure,
we
go ahead.
talked on Friday about what else might come out of Fund 104. If we find that 104 is insufficient, will you make up those extra dollars from your edit funds? Because at that point, then we would go to property taxes?
I don't anticipate that, but I certainly, there's some funds that would be available. It does pull from other things that we like to help, which are some of the nonprofits and so forth, but we wouldn't want to put the 104 in a negative position.
Absolutely not.
It has not been anywhere near negative at this point, and we've purchased a couple fire trucks, and we do pretty much an ambulance every year. That's our plan.
Right.
So there's a lot of equipment that needs to be replaced.
Right. And there's a lot, I mean,
Mhm.
so many different things. And so
Yes.
that's why Chief and I talked about
Mhm.
getting a list of the things that do come out so that we can kind of get an idea of how much is coming out of that fund. And then obviously I'll
Yeah,
get
he can help you with the 104.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then knowing more about the edit, and I'll review that, but just
Okay.
making sure that we have enough in those 2 funds so that it would never, my concern is that if for some reason it was insufficient, we would have to go to property taxes, because I know that's happened not under your administration, but in the past that has happened where unfortunately the bond wasn't covered by the initial entity that was supposed to cover it. So
Yeah, just for, and it's probably good for the public to hear this. I've got I have a budget here. It's 7 years. But I will say that this year, I believe it's $4,352,000. I mean, roughly.
edit.
Yeah, for edit. So I do not anticipate that doing $1.4 million in debt is at risk. But you can never say because now that's income tax, so it's not property tax generated. We run a little more risk on property tax if people don't pay their property tax. We feel it, but most people don't quit their jobs, and that's where the lit tax comes from. And edit is a part of that lit tax.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, my concern was when I read this and it's talked about how if those are insufficient, then property taxes would be.
Yeah, I cannot imagine that. And I don't know if you want to confirm that so they get it from a third party.
Thank you. And then I will yield.
I would just say that as we go through this process and we're talking to investors, we're going to have to prove to them that there are sufficient edit dollars. And as the mayor said, you can never assume that everything's going to happen right, but we're going to have plenty of coverage.
Okay.
And so that should never be a problem. The property tax backup is really viewed more as just insurance for an investor in case the worst case would ever happen. And I apologize for the confusion of the 104 fund.
Yep.
I'm just talking from a strict legal standpoint. We've pledged edit to make the payment on the bonds.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. I yield.
Do you have any more questions?
Mr. President, I do. For the bond council, is this regular practice for the bond authorization to be handled before the agreement? I mean, is that?
Yeah, I mean, you usually want to have a good handle on what your build, operate, and transfer amount's going to be, but I mean, they can kind of run along the same timing. I'm not sure what the timing is on the bot, but you know, as long as you make sure you have enough funds available to fund your construction contract. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from the council? Do you have any questions from the audience tonight?
I do. I'm sorry, Mr. President. I do have something that I wanted to say about. I don't know if this is appropriate time, but I just want to say that, you know, we all know that this needs to be done. Nobody up here does not believe that. I think the main concern is the cost. We know 5 is right after this. And we know, like we were just talking about, all of these stations need to be updated. So, you know, we've all been doing research. Last week, Councilman Mason and I took a little time off work and drove up to Fort Wayne and saw a brand new station that they just built, literally just moved into in October, and they built it for $4.4 million. Now, you know, apples to apples, we don't know, exactly. I've not seen the plans next to each other or anything, but I did bring some pictures and I just want to share those. I just want to show what 4.4 just bought, just so that we have an idea of what we're talking about and the differences. So if you don't mind, come. Okay, I think it should be throwing. We did practice.
There's one. You got one up, Sarah, over here. We just don't have the business.
Oh, okay. All right. So I guess if you look over on this one, you can see it at least. It looks like the other ones. Are they? Okay. Are they? It's starting to pop up. Okay. There you can see the front of it. So you see that it's not a pole barn. It is brick. You see that it's 3 bays. I think it's technically 2.5. We'll see that in a minute. This is kind of the panoramic from the side, so you can see the pull through. And again, some more outside. This is where you can see that they have the sleeping area. It is all one, but they do have cubbies because they are set up for also, both genders. This just shows some of their storage space. Another one of their cubbies. This shows a locker room. This shows, this is the women's shower bathroom area, and they have their own locker room. This, I think, is a sleeping area off of the side of one of the offices. There are 2 officers' offices. This is their report room. This kind of shows how, that the bay, different angles of the bay. This shows some storage off the side of the bay. Just, and then here you start to see this is where they have this, when we're talking about, trying to keep carcinogens out of the residence area. This is off the bay, which is, you have like an airlock area that you go from the residence into the bay. This is the other side of the bay. This is also the decon bathroom that they have outside in the bay if you want to shower before you even get into the, so you see where it's all open. So I'm not going to go through, everything, explain all of this. I just want you to see that this does have everything that I think that we're talking about, wanting for 6. And again, I'm not a building expert, but I know we have, lots of needs. And so I just want to say, this is 4.4. I know it won't be 4.4 even if we started right now, and, costs go up, but could the 8 million, get us 2 or 1.5? So I just wanted to share that.
Mr. President.
When was that built?
I have a question. It was just a question for no, for you actually, and probably the same question. Where was that facility?
It was in Fort Wayne, and it was on a brand new lot. I mean, they didn't have to tear anything down. It was new build.
And they didn't use a bot?
They didn't. They actually had savings. They had a capital improvement fund that they used. Thank you.
I've got a question too, Mr. President. Was that built this year or last year?
It was last year. They just moved in November of 2023. They said the PO was from the end of 2022.
Thank you.
Have any other questions from the council? Hey, Chief, is there going to be an aerial truck in that one?
At the present time, there is not an aerial truck assigned at Station 6.
I have one.
There's a lot of things that have to be talked about for those things to happen, staffing, money to purchase trucks. Those are all things, I am very open to conversation for. What we do want to make sure is that whatever type of facility we build a facility that is going to be able to be expandable. It's going to be able to have some growth. The stations we are in now were built for fire suppression only and not EMS. They were built for 3 men per apparatus on the suppression piece, living, bunking together. I am curious as to which station that this is. I'm sure it's one of the fire territories that just opened up there.
It's 14 is what it's called.
Okay.
Fire station.
Well, I have plenty of friends. I have a lot of friends up in Fort Wayne. I'm sure I can find out.
It's down the street from their union hall. I know that. It's about a mile down from their union hall.
Okay. And that way we can make some comparisons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, yeah.
But there are some things that we would like to look at. And obviously, our union president's chiming in here with us too. He said that the Fort Wayne station did not use union labor that he knows of. Local carpenters union actually picketed that station when it was being built.
Okay.
Now, that was something I was going to get a little into, but I wanted to make sure that I'm not stepping out of line. I know that the motion on the floor was for an ordinance in reference to a bond. So, I did have some information that I was going to share with you, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't out of line at that point. Councilor Powell stopped by and saw me Friday. I appreciate that. I've invited all of you to stop by or call me. I'm more than willing to talk to you about anything and try to answer any questions. And I don't have all the answers. I am not going to stand here and tell you that I am a bot expert because I don't know who truly is, okay? But we do know there is a lot of people using them. Councilor Powell had a lot of questions, and I reached out to Mr. Martz from GM Financial, or GM Development, sorry. She had asked about references. I recently attended a mandatory state chiefs academy in Plainfield, and I networked with 42 chiefs around the state of Indiana. And, well, I'm going to bring these up, and I'll let you pass them out.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a list of stations, and it's not the whole list, but it is a comprehensive list of stations that Mr. Martz has built, has worked on those programs with, and references. I did talk to some chiefs who utilized his services, and they were very happy with his services. So like I said, I don't know if this is out of line with actual discussing the bond ordinance. So like I said, if it is, please let me know. But they had questions about revenues from building stations. I asked Mr. Martz about that. I wish he was here tonight to speak on that. But he said, when he does commercial construction, it's not a traditional like 30% that they do markup for general charges, like it's pretty common in residential. I'm a little more versed in residential construction. It's not uncommon to have a 30% general fee. He said the max he's ever charged on a commercial is 6%. And that's the max. The larger the project, the lower the percentage goes that his fees are. And I believe that's pretty standard and with other developers that are in this industry. So I did ask about that. I asked him about labor. He said all subcontractors will be open for bidding. There will be competitive bidding, and he encourages local companies to bid, which was important to us when we first sat down. And he said, hey, when we get to the point where we can open this, please, we'll put it out. Please encourage local contractors, and subcontractors to come in and bid this work. And then he told me that any additional funds left over at the end of the contract will be deducted from the total fees. So those were questions that I have been asked by members of this council, and I just reached out and asked them. So please, if you have questions, if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to these people, I will reach out for you. I'm not going to tell you you're going to call me and I'm going to have the answers for you right now, but I am more than willing on your behalf to go and check. I did realize when I was looking at the photos of your stations, though, that is not what they consider a general neutral station. And I only say that because I just read an article in Firehouse Magazine about that today, where they have stations that have separate female and male quarters, but there are departments being sued now because they're not developing what's considered a general neutral area where individuals can have their own locker facility and their own restroom facilities while on shift. Through Firehouse Magazine and Fire Rescue Magazine, they do stories on fire stations being built every day. And in the last week, I've seen stations that range from $1.2 million to $35 million, depending on what you're building for your community. So we can build, and this very well, it may not look like a pole barn, but that very well could be pole barn construction with brick veneer. We study that stuff in our fire and building construction all the time. I'm not saying that, Counselor, because I don't know. I hadn't seen the station. I hadn't been part of it, but I would like to go and see the station. So I will reach out and find the information, but there's a list. I've started calling, references on that list and reached out, trying to find comparable stations to what we are. And there's plenty of them out there. So I'm trying to do my part as well to make sure that we're building these stations so that they will serve the community for a long time. Yes.
Chief, me and Roger Overby, he was on the city council last year. We went to those other fire stations that got built by BOT.
Mm-hmm.
Those were excellent fire stations. And that's what I want for our firefighters. I don't want something cheap for them. Because you get cheap, that's what you get.
Yep.
Well, we want to build quality stations. So like I said, we want to make sure that what we build now, in 5 years, we're not coming back saying, oh man, and we're not asking for housing, to house 15, 20 people at these stations. We're not asking to have room for, 10, 15 trucks. As the chief of the department, I would really love to have extra storage facilities at Station 6, as I've said before, because it is right close to the city garage. It's within blocks. When we have to swap out apparatus, having those spare apparatus at that station makes us more efficient. And adding bay space now when we're doing this is much cheaper to do it now. And the cost in the scheme, the cost overall of adding bay space is minimal in the cost of building a new station. So like I said, I hope I'm not out of line with the ordinance that was presented tonight. But my office is always open, and my phone, make sure we have the proper phone number, is always on too. And I'm more than happy to speak with any of you at any time, whether it be in my office, if you want to grab a cup of coffee on neutral ground, if you feel that way, I have no problem with that as well. But, I would appreciate, if you do have questions, please feel free to reach out to myself and the rest of our staff, and we will do everything we can, if we can't answer your question, to find those answers for you.
I went to Westfield,
Mhm.
and they have an immaculate station. And they had 2 of our firefighters from Muncie down there, transferred down there.
They have had 4 of our firefighters there. Oh, while you were there.
Why they went there,
Mhm.
because those are nice fire stations, and they had to clean up for the uniforms and all that,
Mm-hmm.
get the smoke smell off of them and everything. And they give us a good detour of it, I mean, a show of it. But they had rooms where the people stayed at, the men and women, and they had their own rooms, and they had their own alarm. If there's another alarm where they went somewhere else and other people went, that they didn't hear that alarm.
Right.
But when it comes to their area they was in, it chimed in the room, and so they got to rest.
Yep. And those things can be added to stations. Like I said, there's a lot of great things that we would love to see in our stations. But a lot of those things also require coordination with the county dispatch system for those to be able to operate like that
I
properly.
think that's going to have a place for an aerial truck in there.
The bays at all of our stations at this point will be large enough to house aerial apparatus. Absolutely. Without a doubt. That's very minimal to make sure that those requirements are there. As far as dollars and cents, that is nothing to make sure that that's.
The only thing I got against the bot is they don't bid the job out. I want them to bid that job out. Progressive bid.
Well, and as far as the contracting and the subcontracting, that is bid out. I do know that. That was one of the questions that had been asked of me and one of the concerns that I asked of Mr. Marks. And he has been very open throughout the process that they encourage local contractors to bid on the framing, electrical, mechanical, heating and cooling, plumbing, concrete work, grade work. They encourage, you to get involved with your local contractors, and encourage them to bid on those jobs.
Mr. Mason.
Do we know what the square footage of this facility will be?
I don't have the exact square footage. What has been given to us were the schematics, drawings. So at this point, it's an idea. We have some room sizing that you could sit down maybe with a calculator and figure every little bit of that up. But they have minimum standards that are required for bunk room area, which if you look at the drawings that we have, it's a bunk room and locker facility together that will have a Jack and Jill bathroom between them. They know what the minimum requirements and the minimum codes are for those. So you can get close on that. But for me to stand here right now and tell you the exact square footage, I cannot, because I don't believe that is actually completely pinned until the process after this.
Yep.
So I can't give you that information.
I'm sorry. Just for clarification, Chief, the mayor had said that having a new station will increase safety for the area. Can you explain that?
Well,
new station will increase the safety of the area?
Well, we will staff with what we can right now, and the max we can have in that station is 5 individuals. That's all we have the space for.
Right.
So one of the big things having the extra space is going to greatly improve is during those times a year where we don't have high vacation and personal days. And once we get through these retirements and get new hires on, there's a lot of time of the year that we can staff 4 members on an engine. As long as that ambulance is in that house, that station will not get 4 on the engine because we have absolutely no sleeping quarters for those. So right off the bat, we can say yes. There will be times of the year that this will increase safety. If you increase the efficiency of your individuals, that increases safety. If guys are sleeping well and they're rested well, that can increase safety.
I absolutely understand how it's increasing the safety of the employees, but how will it increase the safety of the residents around?
Well, the days we can have extra people on our apparatus, that increases the safety of the public. Absolutely. If your firefighters are well rested, they are going to operate more efficiently. That critical thinking is going to happen much quicker. So those things are definitely things that play into safety. We know that sleep deprivation is huge. One of the big focuses on our class when I took the academy was specifically the dangers of sleep. So being able to have places where you're not sharing sleeping quarters. I tell you, I was on the floor for 25 years, and I know what it's like when you have snorers, when you have people that get up and use the restroom in the middle of the night, things like that. It does disturb your sleep. So to say that those things, they can definitely play a role in the safety of the members in the community.
I have some too, Council President. I'd say too, playing in with the safety is just, I always use Indian Village for an example of fire station. As you're more well rested and say your calls are down one day, when I was a kid, you went to Indian Village for Halloween. That was a spot. The fire station was it. That's where you went. The presence that I think that you'll put out too, just in the neighborhoods, is going to go a long way. Your presence in the neighborhood with the boots out when you're getting changed and all that. And now that the fire stations are safe stations, we see a lot of those being used as safe stations that we don't hear about. So I believe the presence of the fire stations and all that is going to play in a huge factor into the neighborhoods. And as you reach out, you do huge community outreach as a fire department. So I see that playing into public safety. As you're well rested, your stations are more better. Your firemen are going to have a lot more up to beat attitudes. And I see that playing in a lot too, and a lot more into the public outreach that the fire department can do.
Right. And everybody asks about staffing. Everybody wants increased staffing in their area. And if you want increased staffing in your area, I am here to tell you I am 100% on board with you. But we need to make sure we have facilities to house those individuals. So, that station, it has met its maximum growth potential as it sets.
I walked through Fire Station 7 and 2 people couldn't cook in the kitchen together. And I have 2 daughters, and I'm not saying nothing, but it is not, if my daughter grew up to be a firefighter, it is not generally neutral for her to be in that station either. It's we are in dire need of that.
And it's off topic.
Number one.
It's off topic, but we are working to bring in an architect to go through all of our fire stations with us to find out what improvements we can make. We have promised some capital improvement money in our EMS funds as well, so that we can perform these capital improvements on all of our stations that are remaining if we don't get the opportunity to replace them. But it is important for us. So we are bringing architects in. We're going to spend some money up front on that to make sure what we can and cannot do to improve the facilities that will be remaining when this process is over, whatever that may be.
I want to thank you too. You're one of the department heads. So it's very hard to get some to answer, but you are I'd say, Ms. Powell, you can attest to this. You're very well of answering and getting back with us, and we greatly appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. That's my job.
He does give you the wrong phone number then.
Well,
I'm
getting that taken care of. Yes.
You only do that once.
Yes. You have the correct number now, and I will. It is on my emails as well.
With this new facility, would it be with community policing being a hot topic? Would it be possible to maybe have a office, maybe this is for the mayor, have an office for community policing as well out of the new fire station?
I can say that we work very well with our police department. I speak with Chief Sloan and the deputy chiefs daily. I mean, we're right next to each other and we sleep. And we're very open for partnership. We have our EMS chief in the back. He is the SWAT medic now. And he works with the SWAT team. He trains with the SWAT team as a police officer. He is actually a sworn police officer, and goes with our SWAT team to provide emergency medical care for them first, and then any victims along with them at the same time. So collaboration is big for us. And if that is something that I can guarantee you as the fire department, we are not opposed to working with our city police department, for things that benefit our community. That's what we're here for. We are here to benefit the community.
Something that we might explore.
Good one.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would like to say something. I just want to thank everybody that has been involved in this process from the beginning. It's been a long, long road. I'll be a little bit gentler today than last month. But I think, and I will go on the record saying, This first fire station is going to be a standard that we look for other fire stations. I think the community has been waiting for this for a long time, and the decisions we make from cutting or doing this or making it smaller is a reflection of how we feel about a certain area, and that's what I personally think. To me, if I vote a certain way, it's just talking. We are communicating with the people. And I want to say that the area needs it. It benefits the children in those schools. It benefits the businesses, the future businesses. And it will be a pride, a mark of pride in that community. And there is no amount of money as a city that can oversee that. It's like us saying, let's bring back pride in that community. And this is what we think. And I just encourage every council person here and everyone to support this initiative. And I will not vote on anything that is less than what was presented to us.
Mr. President. Yes. It's evident that this council wants to see this happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be good stewards of city and taxpayers' dollars. And, there's ways to explore getting this project done. If we elect to go with the bot, then so be it. But, I think we need to kind of think outside the box as well. If we could do it cheaper than $8 million, that's 2 fire stations.
True.
Now, I don't know the square footage of all the, what the standard is. I think that station in Fort Wayne was what?
7,500?
7,500 square feet. Yeah, we want to see this happen. But we have to be good stewards of taxpayer and city dollars as well.
Anyone else?
Mr. President, I believe that the city has done their due diligence to come up with a plan for this fire station to move us forward as a city.
Mm-hmm.
And it behooves us as a council not to impede the progress of this city. For the citizens, for their benefit, I appreciate Sarah going up and getting the photos that she did. But as we looked at the photos, they did not have in those photographs what we'll have in our station. There were a lot of things that were left out that we have already planned. Chief has already expressed to us that there are cities that are dealing with lawsuits because they didn't have separate quarters the way that they were supposed to with restroom and shower facilities. In this new facility, each one of them has their own facility in that room. And I believe that's important that individuals have their privacy like that. The women are separate from the men, but they have their own little area by themselves. I think that's imperative that we do things like that. I think the city's done their part, and I think it's time that we do our part. That's how I feel.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Ms. Powell?
I'm sorry to ask. I also agree that we need to move forward with this. I don't know that we need to. Never mind. I do have a question about the bond fees. Can you give us a breakdown of what that $750,000 are? Or could you have it prepared for
What's
us?
the 7? I mean, I guess
Well,
Bob can
we were
probably
told
do it.
by Mayor Ridenour that the bond will be for 8.7, but the actual cost of the project is 7.95, which makes about $750,000 in fees.
Sure, I'll let Bob maybe chime in. I think there's potential for capitalized interest. There's potential for if there's an increase in the cost. There's potential for if there needs to be a debt service reserve to sell the bonds. Bob, I don't know if there's more you want to add, but that's what it's a not to exceed. So those are things that we might need when we go to market the bonds and may not need.
You email us a list of what those, can you give an itemized list of what those fees will be?
Can you do that, Bob?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Yep.
then one last question, and I'll you had talked about local labor. Would that be, are you talking union labor? Are you talking just local labor?
I can tell you that we expressed with Mr. Martz, when I became involved in this process, that we definitely wanted to concentrate on union labor.
Thank you. And if we don't use local labor, then can I have a commitment from the administration that they will adhere to the responsible bidders ordinance that ensures livable wage, health insurance, and those things?
I don't, that's not a question I can specifically answer. I mean, that's.
Okay, that is something that we'll need to follow up on, making sure that we're adhering to RBO if we do not use local labor or local union labor. And then lastly, I just have one more thing, Councilperson Selby, is that I go back to the fact that it says that we're going to be guaranteeing with property taxes, or that I am very, very concerned about that, given that we still have 1/3 of our employees that are under negotiations and have not had
as taxpayers to get more information on the fire station, on the bot, on GM Development is a one-person company. He subs all the work out. So as far as his ability to do the work, he subs everything out. We talked, and I want to thank you, Ms. Gallion, for you and Mr. Mason for going up and checking one of the fire stations out up in Fort Wayne. I commend both of you guys for that, and I commend everybody on this board. Ms. Powell, you're doing a heck of a job. You know, you never would have heard me say that, but you did a heck of a job on your searching this out. Like I said, the 104 fund, I believe, is the EMS fund. You guys say 104. The general public doesn't really realize, but I think that's the EMS fund.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. We're going to use bonds. We're going to use bot. We're going to use property tax to back this up, and also the lit tax. About 6 or 8 months ago, before some of you folks were up here, we talked about the lit tax in here. I brought it up that it was going to be talked about this year and it was going to be raised. Guys, Muncie has no industry left. Chevy's gone. Warner Gear's gone. Most of the little factories that fed those two factories are gone. We've got Ball State, and they are a nonprofit organization. Maybe it's time we hit them up for a little bit more money and say, hey, it's time for you guys to pay your part. That is a big chunk of Delaware County. That's a big chunk of the city of Muncie. Approach them. They are a nonprofit. They can give us the money. They build brand new buildings out there every year. Every year. They talked about union, that this project in Fort Wayne was not union. Union is not going to cost that project to double in price. You guys are all clear, 8.7 or 8.9 million. That's $9 million. $9 million over 20 years. 20 years of edit fund over $9 million. So if some of you folks want to run for mayor eventually, you're going to be paying for it for the next 20 years. Mr. Dishman, you've been on the council for 16 years. You're talking 20 years. You've been on there a long time. We're talking 20-year bot on this, a maximum of a 20-year bot. So they're going to hook that all the way out. That's 20 years. What else will be gone in 20 years that we're not getting this money from? Let's build this fire station the way it's supposed to, bid it out for contract, get the best price on it. Ms. Gullion, your pictures did not look like that fire station was a pole barn. Looked nothing like a pole barn with brick interior or brick exterior on it. I call bull crap on that.
Concrete block interior walls. Concrete block interior walls.
Okay. So I know a lot of you guys have done your due diligence on this, and I appreciate that. The lit tax, they're going to bring that up. It's going to come up, and it already has on this. And I would like to see Ms. Selvey as the president of that committee to have the other meeting she had promised us. We still
Not the president of that meeting no more.
okay. Whoever's the president of that.
We're going to have one.
Okay. As long as we get another meeting before this, I know this is up for introductory. This is moving pretty fast all of a sudden because we got a new council.
Get the GM developed there.
He's trying to pull, I hope they ain't trying to pull some wool over you guys' eyes trying to get this pushed through so quick because the last council stepped back and took a look at it. And I hope you guys all do, Republican and Democrats. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah.
You know, however it's built, let's just get it built. This is getting old. This is really getting old. It's hard for me to believe all 9 city councilmen cannot settle this 30 days in between each meeting. Let's just get this over with. This is getting ridiculous. I'm not saying how to do it, however it gets done, it's getting old. And I think the chief, good, honest man, he's not going to stand up here and feed us no crap. But this is getting old. Let's just get it done. I know y'all talk in between meetings, monthly meetings, but it's getting old. Get it settled, get it completed, do something. And then one thing I want to say is I'm born and raised in Whiteley, and I currently live there. I don't see anybody here from Whiteley advocating for this fire station. Nobody. So let's not play on the intelligence of people living in Whiteley, how bad we need it. They don't even talk about it. They don't even talk about a fire station. I'm serious. I don't hear, except for a few people coming up here, we don't talk about it. Yeah, we need it. It's not going to help our safety. I still don't see that part. But I'm not speaking against it. I'm just speaking on some of the comments that were made. Right. Don't play on our intelligence, because if you want to talk about safety, get in your car and drive through Whiteley. Some places look like a third world country. So that's what if you're going to talk about safety, go look at that before we talk about a fire station. But however it get done, through bot, through contracts, whatever, it's getting old. I'm sorry, I come to these meetings, I'm tired of hearing about it, be honest. Get it done. Like I said, I don't think the chief's going to stand up here and lie to anybody. I know some more stuff was introduced, but get it done. Y'all got 30 days in between meetings to discuss this stuff between you guys. Y'all can call the mayor, you can call the controller. Let's get this stuff done. It's getting old.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Anyone else like to talk tonight? Anyone from the council again? Okay. We have a motion to.
I'd like to make that motion to introduce.
I'll second it.
We
already have a motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The same. Thanks, everyone. Moving on to ordinance 324. Anybody for ordinance 324?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Ordinance 324,
3-24.
appropriation ordinance, City of Muncie.
Have anybody want to talk on this tonight?
Do you just want me to kind of introduce it for you? So this is the introduction. We would put out a notice for a public hearing at your next meeting. And all this does is it appropriates the proceeds of the bonds into your budget. So once the bonds are sold, you can take the proceeds into your budget and actually spend them. So that's all this does. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Do you need to introduce first? I make a motion to introduce ordinance 3-24.
I'll second that.
Mr. President, I have one question. Where will those proceeds be receipted into? What fund?
I think you will set up a construction fund. I'll maybe let Bob talk about it, but generally you'd set up a construction fund and they'd be, the city would track those and track the expenditures out of that construction fund.
So it'd be completely separate fund that we will create. So will they come back to council and ask to create a line item fund? Or, okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what the appropriation is doing. So.
All right.
Anyone else from the council?
I have a question. And I may be really off here, but if we set this up, I mean, if we, next time, if we do say this, are we specifically going to be saying that it's just for the one fire station? Or if it's not all used, would it be able to go toward another fire station or?
So the purpose under your bond ordinance is for this, for this fire station. I suppose if you had excess proceeds, what you typically would do with tax exempt proceeds is either use them to pay down the debt if you can, or you'd use them for another kind of similar project or related improvements. So that's what you typically use them for.
Is there any questions from the audience? Any more questions from the council? All in favor for introduction of 3-24, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Okay, moving into resolutions. Resolution 1-24.
Resolution 1-24, a resolution of approval for the 2023 changes to the official zone maps for the City of Muncie.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adopt.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion to adopt and approve.
Just a point of clarification. This is an update that happens every year.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Good evening, Council. Kylene Swackhammer from Delaware Muncie Metropolitan Planning Commission. This resolution is the annual update for the official zone maps for the city. As you can see from the packet, there was one throughout the year. So it shows you that official update, and that was changed back, approved by the Muncie Plan Commission. The annual update has already been approved by the Muncie Plan Commission, so now it is just before you guys to approve as well.
Any questions from the council? Anyone from the audience? Roll call, please.
Powell,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yeah.
Selby.
Yes.
Basham,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
McIntosh,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Gillian,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 2-24.
Resolution 2-24, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Muncie approving a pilot agreement in connection with the development and construction by TWG Kilgore LP of an affordable multifamily housing apartment project in the city and authorizing other matters in connection therewith.
Is there a motion?
Isn't this the resolution that turned into an ordinance?
Correct.
We have to.
Okay.
You'll need to on the agenda as a resolution, if it's filed today. I recommend somebody making a motion to amend / convert it from the resolution to a consensus.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion to amend and second to amend.
Then vote on that.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Garrett,
Yes.
Basham,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Selby.
Yes.
McIntosh,
Yes.
Gillian,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Now you can take a motion to introduce.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Howe. I'm with the Muncie Redevelopment Commission. It's my understanding, and I've been calling this a resolution for the last couple of weeks, so I'll try to remember to call it an ordinance. But it's my understanding that the city council members have received information, much of what I'm going to talk about briefly already, but I wanted to just briefly outline the path that led us to the matter being presented today. Section 42 Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program offers tax credits to property owners and developers to establish affordable rental housing. In return, these owners must comply with occupancy restrictions for eligible households, adhere to rent restrictions, and ensure safe and sanitary conditions. Oversight of the program falls under the purview of the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, which is IHCDA, which conducts audits, inspections, and reviews to ensure compliance. To qualify for the tax credits, developers apply under the Indiana Qualified Allocation Plan, which sets the guidelines for scoring projects by the IHCDA. TWG Development, who is also the entity behind the development of the River Bend Flats, approached the city seeking opportunity for another project in Muncie. During the application process, it was determined that to maximize the points needed to score the project, the city of Muncie, and improve our chances to get the project, the city of Muncie would contribute funds. This was determined to be, I think it was $2.7 million. 500 of that is coming from edit, one-time investment, and 400 from the MRC. Another $1.8 million was being done as a tax abatement. In exchange for the tax abatement, the city negotiated with TWG a payment in lieu of taxes, or a pilot. And that was so we were able to get a better score because of the contribution, but then doing the pilot doesn't, if I understand correctly, doesn't take away from our score. So we were able to receive some money for the portions of property taxes. So just kind of running through the math here, the current assessment on that property, and I took in consideration increase over the time period of the pilot, which probably, depending on how long that lot is vacant, I use 3%. It's probably not 3% as a vacant lot, but the pilot is it's currently paying, I think it was $6,600 a year, $6,680 a year in property taxes. The pilot calls for payments of $30,000, increasing by 3% every year. The pilot will produce $558,000 in payments during the pilot, which would be an increase over that lot, currently at $434,000 in revenue. So asking for your support to move this forward. This will produce 120 units of affordable housing, which we believe is direly needed. And I think we heard it from some folks earlier this evening. And it
It is a thoroughfare into Muncie, depending on where you're coming from and what exit you take, and a new facility out there would certainly make for a nice entry into the community as well. And I think I've kind of considered having this project versus not having this project. But not having this project, we certainly don't meet that need, or we wait till somebody else comes along. But if somebody else comes along and it's $1 million project, then it won't have the effect on the property taxes. Eventually, the property taxes on this property will be probably somewhere in the $250,000 a year range once it's fully up and running and operating. And unless our developers tell me I've said something wrong, they'll clarify it for you and correct me. So I would like it, unless you have questions from me, I'd like to hand it over to the TWG folks so they can walk through the project and let you see what you're.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You were part of the Silver Bush project too, correct?
We did the construction of it. We were not the developers.
Okay. Well, just the background is very well that you're coming. Yeah. Thank you.
I have one question. Could you reiterate the number of units that you would have?
I'm sorry?
The number of units you said would be?
120 affordable housing.
Yeah. 1 to 4 bedrooms, or are we looking?
From 1 to 3 bedrooms.
1 to 3, thank you. Okay.
What percentages of 3 bedrooms are we going to have versus 1?
I can get out of the way because they can answer the project questions. So let me do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would we be able to get the cord?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Maybe. I'll break it. There we go.
Okay.
May I ask her just for clarification? You said that you were involved in Silver Birch. You're not involved. Are you the?
We were, TWG Construction was involved. We worked and partnered with another developer to construct that, but we oversaw everything with their construction side of it.
Okay.
I personally was not in Silver Birch, but yes, the company was. Well, while he is getting that plugged in, I'll go ahead and introduce myself, a little bit more about TWG and the project. My name is Marissa Knatzer, and I'm a development director with TWG. I actually grew up here in Muncie. I went to Ball State, love everything Muncie. So I'm really excited about this project and to have the opportunity to bring some more housing options to Muncie. If we can't get it to pull up. That is okay. Well, at TWG, we're a vertically integrated company, meaning that we oversee everything from finding the site through construction, and we handle property management of the site for at least 15 years. So we're not just coming into this project, building it, and walking away. We'll be here for the long haul. We'll be here to see it through, again, at least 15 years. As Jeff had mentioned, we did Riverbend Flats, which opened this past year. Riverbend Flats was 60 apartment units, at least fully within 3 months. It remains fully occupied, and we have a wait list of over 40 people. Wow. So there is definitely a need for this housing in the community, and we think that Kilgore Place is a great opportunity. As Jeff mentioned, it'll be on the site of the former End Zone Bar and Grill. A fire happened there about 2 years ago, and the site has sat vacant ever since. We think this could be a great opportunity to bring that site back to life, and especially because it is along such a prominent corridor into Muncie. So as we mentioned, it's 120 units of housing with a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. I can get those exact numbers here for you. So we will have about 60 units that are 1 bedrooms, about 40 units that are 2 bedrooms, and let's see, 10% of the units will be 3 bedrooms. So 12 units is 3 bedrooms. Whenever we were identifying how to break this down, we hired a market study consultant to come in and tell us what the needs were for the area. So all of what we've put together has been backed up and verified by a market study that I'm always happy to share if anyone has any questions about what the area looks like and what the need is currently. as Jeff mentioned, we were awarded rental housing tax credits on this property. So we applied to the state. It's a very competitive process. And part of that was this 10% contribution from a local government source. Rather than taking $2.7 million of somewhere from city funds, we wanted to explore the pilot option. A payment in lieu of taxes allows us to make set payments for 15 years, still higher than what the property taxes have been bringing in, but it allows us to claim that on our application so that we were able to get the points to score higher than everyone else in our district. So that's why it was possible. And it's why it's very important to our project. The way that the state tax credits work is that whenever we apply, we're committing to providing that 10% of the contribution. Once we're done with construction, we have people living there, the state will come back to verify that we followed through with our commitments. And so that's why we're here today, to start this conversation, to get it going, and to make Kilgore Place a great place to live. I'm happy to answer any questions. I had some photos of renderings, but I can always send those out to you. And it's an incredible property. We took it through Plan Commission last summer, and everything was approved there. So we're very excited about it and hope to see this come to life this summer.
Go ahead. You good? Yeah. You said it's going to be 60 one bedroom?
There will be, sorry, I have the rough numbers here. Let me get the rent roll pulled up.
Just run those off to me again.
Yes. We have 64 one bedrooms, 44 two bedrooms, and 12 three bedrooms.
Is there a reason why just one bed, 64 one bedrooms?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is there a reason why there's just 64 one bedroom?
Yeah, so there's a few things that play into that. One of them being the market study, coming in to assess what housing options are currently available in the community and what's still needed. Another constraint with that is the size of the site. So the site is about 3 acres that we have to work with. And due to zoning constraints, building constraints, pricing, we have the building maxed out at 4 stories. And so to accommodate enough units to satisfy the needs of the community, but to also make sure that we're not overcrowding the site, that's how we had to fit the puzzle pieces together.
I have a question, Mr. President. I'm sorry, did you say you are, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, it's not you first.
Okay. Did you say you were also the property management? You said you'd be around the 50, so you would be the property managers also?
That's correct. Yes, we will be the property managers for a minimum of 15 years. Okay. We typically stick around longer, but if for whatever reason we find a new property management company, we would be open to the option of extending that. But it would function the same as Riverbend Flats, where we're committed to that property for a minimum of 15 years.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your commitment to affordable housing. I'm interested to know if you've had conversations with MITS to extend bus services on that to that stretch of Kilgore.
Yes, absolutely. We've been in contact with Amanda at MITS to see what the options are to working that into their stop. On our architectural site plans, we do have a bus pull-off there. We would love to make that an activated bus stop for MITS. And so we're working through conversations there of what makes the most sense so that MITS isn't inconvenienced by it, but it could also activate that stretch of Tillotson right there.
Yeah.
Or of Kilgore, I'm so sorry.
Thanks.
Again, thank you for diving into the affordable housing. This is my district. I love what's going on. I really do like the layout of the lane. I know that what you're working with and you've done your study, which really kind of, Mr. Mason really hit the nail on the head with me to the only 12 3 bedrooms. I get the layout. I understand why you're doing it, but it is a hidden thoroughfare that no one thinks about. That is an eyesore. I spent many nights in the end zone. I mean, it's sad to see it burnt down, but it is an eyesore. I'm really glad that it's getting revitalized. You have a very good track record working in the city and working with us. So thank you for taking the initiative to build up my district in the city. We really need that affordable housing in my district. We're hit pretty hard. I know those 3 bedrooms will swamp right out, but I appreciate you diving in. And Mr. Kelly has been in contact with me. You're very, very well in contact with us. So I appreciate you, and thank you for taking the initiative. I'm really excited to see what it'll look like.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for your commitment to low-income housing, and thank you also for your explanation on the tax credits, because that's one of the best that I've heard so far. So I do have some questions. You're involved with Silver Birch, which also had a pilot program.
Yes, we were involved on the construction side. I just want to make sure.
You're not managing or are not involved in any of that now?
Correct,
okay.
Yes.
And then Riverbend Flats, did that have an abatement or a pilot with that?
Riverbend Flats had a tax abatement on that. Riverbend Flats was in the planning process. Pilots were not, I don't know if it was passed yet, that pilots could be applied to affordable housing developments like this. It is a recently new resolution and bill that was passed, I want to say in 2022. So it is relatively new. So at the time of Riverbend Flats, it was not an option or a well-known option.
How did you come about the $30,000 a year total? I know that Silver Birch is a $50,000, so I'm just curious how you came to that number. And then also, where will that $30,000 be receipted into in regards to, will it go into our general fund? I know that the $50,000 goes to community development, and I just want to get as much of that into the general fund as possible. So just curious where that's going.
Yeah, absolutely. I can speak on the calculations for the amount.
Sure.
But I would ask the mayor to have a little bit of help with where that would be going. So to land on the $30,000 amount, what we did was we had this 10% of total development costs that we had to meet through the state. So to do that, we were trying to see what the city would be able to contribute to the project and what still needed to be made up elsewhere. So when we found that it was about 1.8, we took the estimated tax revenue that we would have had once the property was complete and fully occupied, and then look to see what discount to that tax revenue we can make in order to meet the 1.8 million contribution over the 15 years. Hopefully that explanation made sense.
It did. Thanks. And then it might not be, I guess we'll wait to see from where that's being received into. I guess local labor, can you speak to that? Like, will you commit or to using local labor in building this? And will you will you create any jobs? Will there be job creation from that beyond construction?
Great question. So as far as construction goes, TWG Construction will be the GC of record. And from there, we will subcontract work to whoever would like to bid. We always encourage local companies, anyone that would like to participate in that process, trying to get as many local folks as possible, just because those local folks we often find know the area a little bit better, knows what works, knows what doesn't. And so we always love to use as much local labor as possible. However, it does come down to who wants to submit a bid for the property. And so that's what I would speak to that. Did you want to speak to the taxes?
I was just going to, it will recede into the general fund.
Thank you.
And then as far as job creation following construction, once Kilgore Place is fully opened, we will have one property manager full-time and one full-time maintenance staff. We hope to have an additional full-time assistant property manager, especially during those beginning months. And we would love to have some staff that we could utilize both at Riverbend Flats and at Kilgore Place to make the most of both communities and create some additional jobs.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
You are very prepared. Like thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mr. Bushman, I have a question. What about the bidding process for supplies, like for pipes and all that material? We always ask about labor, but we have several supply businesses here, companies. Do you allow them? Do you notify them that this is going to be, and will you take their bids? How do you initiate that process with them?
I cannot speak too much to that process right now. I will be back in the office tomorrow with our construction team and gather as much information from them as possible to pass along. I'm not very familiar with getting in the weeds of the bids for supplies, but I will gather everything and can get you into contact with them.
A lot of times I hear from business owners that they say the cities, we're doing these projects, but nobody asks them to put in a bid or they don't know about it.
Right.
So I would appreciate it if you would make an effort.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, absolutely.
Anyone else?
Mr. President, I have one question. How soon will you start the bid process?
We will, trying to do the math in my head. So we plan to start construction mid to late May of this year. So right now we are finalizing our architectural plans. We're at about 85%. So as soon as that gets to about a 90% bid set, our construction team then will take that over and begin the bidding process. So I would say timing wise, probably late March is when that would be happening.
Wow. Yeah. Good for you.
Anyone else from the audience?
I got a couple concerns, la-da-da, right? Who gets the tax credit points from this project? Do you know who gets the tax credit points from this project? Do they go out of state?
So as far as the way that the tax credits work, we are.
Points.
So the point system is for our scoring for the application. So in order to get awarded the tax credits, it works on a competitive scoring system. So we had to get a minimum of a certain points, but then whoever receives the most points gets awarded the tax credits.
Okay.
Was that?
Yep, that's fine. Silver birch is I don't know if many of you folks on the council knows this, but this is I gotta get this right or my wife will be mad at me. Assisted living facility.
Yes, it is.
When I say assisted living facility, it's for people over the age of 55 years old with disabilities that are unable to live on their own. Okay? But they do have apartments on their own. This is on a state highway. State Road 32. As of right now, it's still State Road 32. These people at Silver Birch have no sidewalks to get to the bus stop. They have no sidewalks down through there whatsoever. So you're going to and Silver Birch is 3 stories. I've walked it several times, I know. This is going to be a 4-story building right next to Silver Birch that have all these elderly people in there for low-income housing people, and I understand they have to have somewhere to live. But have we talked to the people that don't get to come out of Silver Birch that often? The guys in the wheelchairs that are driving down the roadway because there's no sidewalks. Have we talked to any of these folks before we ever decided to build this? This is something we need to look into. They are part of our community. They are the elderly people. When I say 55 being elderly, I'm getting close, I know, but they are considered elderly people of our community, handicapped people of our community, and they need to be brought into the mix of this too. Not just TWG construction or whoever decides, well, there's 3 acres there, let's build on this. Because that's going to be right next door to these folks. And we all know, I hate to stereotype it or whatever you want to say, but when you get low-income housing, you get riprap in there. You get the stuff in there. So I just hope when you guys take this into consideration that you consider because my wife works at Silver Birch. The people that live in Silver Birch do not want this project. So you need to take that into consideration when you're doing this. A lot of those folks do not want that project there. Thank you.
Anyone else from the audience?
I was just curious about, I hear the term low-income housing, and I know that means different things. Is this going to be something that is like on a sliding scale, or as far as from a management standpoint? Because nowadays, when we hear the annual income that qualifies for someone being low income, we might hear the term 24,000 a year qualifies you for low income housing. So what about someone who only makes 600 a month, or those kind of scenarios? Will this address any of that?
Yes, great questions. So as far as how the rent will be working for this property, the way that we have the structure set up for Kilgore Place will be for AMIs at 50 to 60% of the area's median income. So the target range for those incomes would be $23,000 to $47,000 annually. Now, those amounts do fluctuate each year. HUD puts out a report every year to adjust for that. They do it by county to make sure that we're adhering to what people are actually making. And so based on those, residents will pay no more than 30% of their income towards rent. And that's including utilities. So whatever they're paying for electric, we cover Wi-Fi, water, sewer, trash. All of that together is never more than 30% of their annual income.
And I was just going to make the comment, I'm sorry, is that the same, that the low-income housing means it won't exceed 60%. Low-income housing is some of our teachers, it's some of our paras in our schools. It was me at one point as a young mother. So I take issue with your statement. I respect your opinion, but I take issue with it because I don't feel that it's a fair assessment of our Muncie residents. I yield back.
I apologize. I really appreciate that comment. Before coming here this evening, I researched what incomes those qualify for Muncie residents. It would mean the entry-level emergency responders would meet the income requirements. I believe I saw the document that it's $42,000, $43,000 for entry-level police officers, so they would qualify to live here. Teachers, preschool teachers, grocery store clerks, all these things that make for a great Muncie, all the things that make Muncie a great place to live are people that are able to live here. And so we think it's a really great opportunity to provide some safe, attainable housing for those folks. Am I able to address some of the previous comments? I apologize. We will be putting in a sidewalk in front of our property. So we will be improving that area. And we have spoken to NDOT to make sure that we do not need any additional traffic impact studies because they're comfortable with the amount of units and residents that will be living there entering onto Kilgore Avenue. And then the last thing, I know the site right now is just an empty lot. We will be putting a brand new apartment development with landscaping, a playground, doing everything we can to beautify that area right along the river and make it a great spot when you're entering Muncie from Yorktown.
I do have, Mr. President. Okay, so you're talking Kilgore and then we have Batavia. I can't, maybe one of you can tell me or remind me, is there a crosswalking light there? Because we put more residents there and they want to go to the outside of town to cross Batavia. Is there anything? I don't think we have anything in place.
No.
I think that's something that's concerning to me and I would like that research more and somebody,
Dangerous to drive
yes,
on.
we need a stoplight or
Yeah,
something because that is safety concern. Thank you.
Mr. President, I have a question, if I may. Will there be any type of a buffer zone between the two buildings? What do you plan to do there?
Between us and Silver Birch. So right now there is the chiropractor office in between the two, and he's planning to remain there. We do have the setbacks from that property that we're aligning with. And so that would be, we'll have landscaping, and that would be.
You're not planning to put a fence barrier?
We do not have plans for that portion. We do have plans for a fence towards the river just for safety, but we did not have any plans for that side. If that's something that you all are very interested in, I'm happy to take a look at that.
Perhaps trees or some type of large growing hedge
Okay.
could go through there. That would give the folks at Silver Birch perhaps a little more calmness and not having those folks come over on them if that's a concern.
Absolutely.
Question, Mr. President. Did you have to get any variances on your setbacks, or did they all kind of meet the criteria, then not have to get the variance to the planning commission?
So what we did with the planning commission is do the multi-unit development plan. So what our aim with that was to take Silver Birch's site and just flip everything that they were doing onto our site. So I believe the setback on that side is a 10-foot setback. I don't know if that would be a variance. Off the top of my head, just because we did do the multi-unit development route.
Owners, I know that this is going to increase right there at Riverside with the business in there. I know Cooper Tire and them are all, it's gonna, the thoroughfare is going to look better coming through down there. I appreciate the sidewalk, which is really nice. We probably could look into a stoplight and the crosswalk right there. Maybe something that's kind of unsafe to drive on really over there. It's a little hectic, especially when that train's coming through. But I appreciate the sidewalk and the setbacks, and you were very helpful with all the questions that we threw at you. So thank you.
Thank you.
If I was just going to address the variance meeting that occurred back in June of 23, it was approved unanimously, 5-0. They did have trees as part, because it's required. So it's required. The change, the reason they had to go in for a variance had to do with it's slightly under the parking requirement.
Okay.
And so they had to get that approved. And then it was 50 feet and they had to do it at 51.5 feet because of the river. So there was something how far back it could go, but those were the only things. But that did go through. And I wanted to mention that another part of the agreement, which Marissa hasn't indicated yet, is that the city also committed $50,000 for additional improvements within a quarter mile. So we hadn't decided what we wanted to do. We were going to work with them, but the section, because right now there's a property between Silver Birch and this development. We were looking at trying to do sidewalk there so that it was at least from Silver Birch down to there, and then go in the other direction down to the Riverside Cafe. We could look at that, but if you would prefer us to spend the funds first on, because we've got 50,000 that's not part of the 2.7. This will come from the Works Department, Public Works Department. It could be the intersection, if that's the preference, or it could be trying to connect. We were kind of leaning toward trying to connect the sidewalk to Tillotson is what our objective was going to attempt to be. But we were going to kind of leave that up to the developer on what didn't hinder them, but we do have extra funds available that are not part of this transaction, just something we agreed to do.
Were you present at the variance?
Yes, I was there.
When they do a variance, they let everybody know kind of around. Was there anybody that spoke against the variance when you were there?
Not one person got up and spoke.
Thanks.
As opposed.
All right, thank you.
There were several in favor, including some of the local businesses.
I agree with Mr. Barber that the sidewalks are very necessary. And so if that $50,000 isn't sufficient in putting sidewalks along that, would the city be willing to look into perhaps subsidizing the rest of the sidewalks? Because
Well, it's possible, and especially since this will go on into another year.
Right.
Because I do know for our paving, I mean, there's only $6,400 left. So we don't have a whole lot of cushion this year because we wanted to do as much paving as possible. But we'll see what we can do. And that is something that probably won't happen until next year anyway for the sidewalks due to the construction time that'll be involved. So I think it's very possible. Our objective with Adam and I was to try and see if we could get the sidewalk up to Tillotson so that they can then easily get to the grocery store that's down the road.
Okay.
And that's not something that was accomplished with Silver Birch. And yet some of the residents, I was there last week for their party, their anniversary party, some of the residents had commented that was a concern. So that's why we put that 50,000 in the hopes that would get done. Thank you.
I think that gentleman right there, you still want to talk?
No.
Okay. I know that one guy stepped in front of me and I said, okay. Okay. All right. Is there anyone else from the audience?
Hi there, Brian Shaw is my name. Let's see, questions. Let's see, it's come up in the past with deals like this. So the local labor and materials and whatnot. And in past discussions, when that was brought up, it can't be put in as a dependency unless certain things are changed. Has there been any more thought about making that like a standard thing? Like if we're going to supplement any sort of construction, that they're just the requirement. So, excuse me. Right. So an ordinance has been passed for.
I don't know that there is, we can legally, and this might be a question for Mr. Gibson, but I don't think that we can legally require a percentage of local labor. What we can do and what we did on the planning commission with the solar project was to amend to ask the developer to give an estimate of the local labor that would be used. And that is something that I will explore and possibly bring that amendment next week. I don't think we can, and Mr. Gibson, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think legally we can say you have to use this much local labor. We can ask them to give an estimate of the local labor that they would use. So at least that's on record.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. I just heard it debated in the past, and I just was hoping that there was some sort of resolution on that. So this is a lot of units, 120 units, which I think will be helpful to some of the people that were in a situation recently with the Muncie end closing down, and something that will be more affordable for them. So I'm all for having affordable options for people. Some of the problems there were people not having an entry into something like this, right? They've got a past eviction or a foreclosure or something that affects their credit so that they can't. So I guess my question would be, do you have any sort of programs or ideas or things that could be implemented to help those type of people to get into these type of affordable housing apartments?
Yeah, so with our property management team, we do have a set list of resident selection criteria. What we're really looking for here is to make sure that there's no history of violent crimes, abuse, anything of that nature that may put other residents in harm. Another big thing that we're looking for there is any felonies for drug-related offenses. Different affordable housing options do provide different resident selection criteria. So just because this one is that does not mean that they all are, but that is what will be applied for this one. As far as evictions or foreclosures, we do run a credit check, but that is just to make sure that there is not anything too high of concern. Something that's really great about our properties is that we offer resident services. So once a resident moves in, we offer programming to them to help with financial stability, to help with getting into a new career, with job training, resume building. We offer this wide variety of services to help them take that next step into life. If they want to buy a home, if they want to move into a market rate unit, to really set them up for success.
And the only other thing I was curious about with construction like this, and you have this many units, as far as, I'm not like I would say a green Bible thumping environmentalist, but if there are things that can be done to help, mitigate some of the things there, solar opportunities, loops for, geothermal heating or things like that. Is that something that you are exploring for this site as a possibility or have thought about, et cetera? That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have committed to the National Green Building Standard rating of silver. So we are taking steps to be as environmentally friendly as possible without pushing costs over what makes sense for the development. But we are doing energy efficient appliances, taking steps for low flow water, everything that we can to be as environmentally friendly as possible.
Anyone else from the audience? Anyone from the council? Roll call, please.
Introductions.
Voice vote.
Just voice vote. We can issue from a resolution.
So all in favor, vote? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
We got one on the table.
Just a quick note. I would like to untable Resolution 1823. We tabled it twice last month also because Mr. Joe Jackson wasn't here and he is in the audience. So I would appreciate to take it off the table.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
I'm really impressed at how you guys have handled these,
Yes.
Yeah.
your due diligence.
Garrett,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
McIntosh,
Yes.
Gillian,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Basham,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
Quite all right. I'm Joe Jackson, a member of the JRF Management LLC. My son and I are the two members. We bought some of the properties of the old Marhofer complex. If any of you go back that far, you remember that facility? It's just been sort of vacant for years and years and just falling apart. And, anyway, we ended up buying part of the property years ago. We fixed our place up real nice. And then somebody else bought the rest of it. And anyway, last year we bought part of that property from them. That big, long, I don't know if you've seen that big, long silver building. I mean, it used to be multicolored. It was rusting and stuff. We cleaned it up and we aluminum coated it and we replaced some of the bad metal panels and we put new 4 overhead doors in it and new electrical and stuff. So we fixed that up. But what we're wanting to do is build a building right next to it towards Elm Street, almost like where Elm and Granville intersect. So it'd be right there. And we have a tenant lined up to rent the building that does resells stuff that's Amazon or eBay or something. I think it's Amazon, returns and so forth. We were hoping to be in there last December, but the weather, by the time we got our tax abatement, we thought we had the tax abatement approved last September. I have a document here, says it was approved, but I just don't know this process well enough that there's multiple approvals that it has to go through evidently or something. So we were just asking for a little bit of tax abatement on it to help till the business got up and running to where they could afford to pay all the taxes. So that's what I'm here for. I'm available to answer any questions.
What was the vote on the tax abatement?
I don't think it went through the tax abatement. Did it?
I don't think it went through there.
It did not go through the tax because you had to go through council first and then.
Right, that's
never
what I
went.
didn't understand. All I had was, it just says here that ordinance shall be in full force. So it said it was approved 11th of September, but that must not have been, I don't know all the steps, I'm sorry.
Let me get you in touch with the guy that got the application for that tax
Okay.
abatement. And I'll try to get with you tomorrow
Okay,
and we'll get you set up on that application on the tax abatement, and get all this taken.
Might be later in the week. I'll be out of town tomorrow, next couple of days, but it's okay.
Could you call me and
Sure.
text me your number or something like that?
Yes, be glad to.
That paper was already filled out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's attached to the resolution.
We've got it.
It's attached to the resolution.
It is?
Mr.
Yeah.
President, we just need to vote, move it, untable it, and then.
Yeah.
vote.
We
already did that.
We undid.
It was just a preliminary resolution.
Yes.
If it's not, he comes back with a final resolution after. a public hearing.
Okay, so we just take a vote on it now?
Yes.
Unless there's more public comment.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I have a question, Mr. President. You say that you do have somebody lined up, and you have somebody who definitely is going to be using this.
I wouldn't
for
say
business?
definitely. I mean, they were definitely for December, but we weren't able to meet that time frame. So
So you don't know if you have a tenant yet?
we don't know if we have a tenant yet.
Okay. So you don't know if you'll have jobs yet at this point?
That's right. Well, if they don't rent the building, I'll probably use it myself until I can find a tenant. So, in fact, I own another business, Advanced Commercial Roofing, where we actually do roofing work throughout the Midwest, Chicago to Pittsburgh and Louisville, Kentucky, and St. Louis, and we also have an office in Florida, and we do in Georgia and Florida, and we deal with businesses as commercial roofing. And one of the things that we've done that sort of makes our company somewhat unique is we'll do bartering and trading on part of their roof project. So in other words, if you have a $100,000 roof project you need to have done and you're a little bit tight, but you sell furnaces and air conditioning units, we might agree to take $20,000 or $30,000 worth of furniture and air conditioning units in it. Because we have manufactured some of our own materials, so we have a low cost, so we can do creative things like that. So we actually have that big warehouse, the one we've coated aluminum coating on it. We're storing a lot of those building materials in there, but we'd like to develop that a little differently. So as a backup plan, we may use part of that building that we're looking to build until we could find a tenant. I'd rather have a tenant in it than me, foregoing the rent, but I do have a use for it.
Dan, did you say that went through the tax abatement committee?
I don't believe it has, but it can. This is just, there's a preliminary resolution, and then they would come back.
So he's got to go through the tax abatement procedure, okay.
I guess I just wanted clarification as well. So if we pass this evening, it will still come back to us?
Yes.
For final?
Preliminary resolution, then you can have a tax abatement committee meeting.
Yep.
And then they'll final, okay.
That would require a public hearing.
Thank you.
When could the final be? Do you have any idea?
It could be next month. If everything's-
Oh, okay.
I don't think he's preparing these documents for you.
All right, thank you.
Resolutions, but
And one more question too, Mr. And so just for clarification, this is for the building itself.
Yes.
You're asking for a 5-year abatement?
I was hoping it was 10, but somebody told me it was 5, so whatever.
And
To help us out.
as of right now, there's no job creation with this project?
Well, actually, yes, there will be. I just have to, I laid off a crew, a three-man crew. If everything's approved, then they'll come back and they'll be working on it right away.
So the job creation will be to build the building, but
Yes, and then to operate the building, that'll probably be 3 to 4 people operating the building as well.
thank you.
Question. Have you spoken with the neighborhood association about your plans and what was the reaction?
I've not spoken with the neighborhood association. I think.
I have. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I sent you Zane Bishop, who is one of the
Okay.
contact information
Yes.
to call him.
Yep. Yeah, Frank's had conversations with him.
Thank you.
Frank works for me, so.
I've got one. When you came the very first time in front of the council, didn't you have how much you were going to pay them per hour too?
Yes, we anticipate 14 to 20.
Oh, thank you.
Actually, one of the guys laid off, we pay him $30 an hour, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, the first time you came to the council, it was very detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta come to the chair.
Yeah, the first time you came to the council, you had all that information.
Yes.
I'll have to dig in and find it. So,
Like I said, I'm a greenhorn, so I thought it was all approved. I was just waiting for the weather to break so we could start work.
Anyone else from council? Anyone from the audience?
So,
Yeah, I'm gonna, because I don't know what's going on with you guys right now. Because this has been the tax abatement. Yes, bro, you know it has.
This is, let me see your paperwork, Joe. This is a bunch of bull crap is what it is. I'm not sure what you guys are doing. So this paper here is where the check was made. And you guys see how long ago this is.
All right, so first, Joshua Colby, the mayor, and I actually got with the mayor's assistant, gave her that check. They said it was going to the tax abatement. When the tax abatement will grow, I talked to Joshua Colby. Joshua Colby isn't even on tax abatement. This has been a huge round circle thing since right here. It's this thing. You see this? This is ridiculous. No, I don't think you guys are quite understanding what's going on. Brandon knows too. He knows. I talked to him about it.
Sir. Some of you guys up there don't have a clue.
We've got, so we need to vote. We've been round and round with this. I don't remember.
All I'm looking at is a preliminary resolution.
Right, that's all I've got.
never came to the
Tell me what the step is.
That's all I remember. And with the check, I understand you paid for the check, but that's whoever you paid that check to is not relaying to us. We just have the preliminary. It's a 3-step process, basically. We're going to adopt it. We're going to vote tax, then it's going to go to the tax abatement committee. We're going to approve it, and then we come back and vote on it again. We can get that done by next month, but we just have the preliminary on here. We have talked, Frankie. He has paid, so I don't know where that communication, I don't know where that fall came through. But what we have right now is a preliminary one that we'll vote on.
No, I'm saying most of the, like, Rona,
Point of order, come up to the podium, please.
I'll just wait till after. You need to talk to all of you guys, that's fine.
I'm sorry. Some people are more frustrated about the process than I am, okay? This check we paid April the 10th of last year, so. Anyway, I'd appreciate any help that we can get on, so.
Audie Barber, the reason this whole thing is going on is because the gentleman never showed up at the initial council meeting to talk about it, and that's the reason it was tabled, just to let everybody know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The initial, I didn't realize there was any more after the September one. Okay, so then I found out in January I was supposed to be at February, so I thought it was Tuesday instead of Monday. Like, I don't know. I think I talked to one of you outside there. I showed up Tuesday at 7:00 and they said, well, it was last night. So then here I am tonight. Apologize for any inconvenience I've caused anyone.
We'll take a vote on it tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Roll call, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Basham,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
McIntosh,
Yes.
Gillian,
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you all. So the next, I guess, do you have a card with you by chance where I could contact you about that other meeting?
I'll be out there. Oh, okay. Bear with me a second, please. Okay, we're moving into other business. Anybody wants to talk in other business tonight? You have the sign-up sheet?
Are you ready for public comments then? Okay. All right, so public comments, Chip Taylor. Do you need this?
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the Ethics Advisory Committee. I'll keep it brief. I know it's been a long evening, but I've got one announcement, one ask of the council on behalf of the committee, and one ask of the council on behalf of some members of the public. So the announcement, will have our regular March meeting on March 14th. That's a Thursday, March 14th, 7:30 p.m. We've been meeting at Marion Hunt Library. Everybody, the public's welcome. We've been meeting since October. We have a few members of the public at each meeting. Really good discussion. We've had the luxury of with the low attendance is very informal. We have a discussion about the topics that are on the agenda. We've gotten a lot of good input from the members of the public that have been there. So I would encourage anybody that's interested in the work we're doing to draft an ethics ordinance for the city of Muncie for the council to eventually consider to come out and join us in the discussion. So that's the announcement. What I want to ask, after our March meeting, we expect to have in outline form a full draft of the ethics standards that would govern the behavior of elected officials, employees, appointees, and some others, as it's laid out in the resolution that created us. We want to make that draft available to the public for their review and feedback back to us while we go on and work on some of the other parts of the ordinance. The document would have, basically the ethics standards in an outline form. It won't actually be written as in the form of an ordinance, but it'll be clear, what we've been discussing. And we'll have a process that people can give us feedback either by coming to the meeting or sending in comments. My ask for the council is, when we have that document ready after the March meeting, if you would be willing to make that document available on the council webpage on the city website, because I think that would make it very convenient to point people to, and so that everybody can access it. So that's I see people nodding their heads. So I guess it sounds like maybe that can happen. Absolutely, yeah. And I'll say that the clerk's office has been great to work with from the very beginning. I'm a month behind, but I've been sending our final agendas, minutes, and all that, so it's permanently archived on the city website. So that's the ask on behalf of the council, the committee. The other issue, I've been contacted by a number of members of the public concerned that we're not meeting in the council chambers and that our meetings are not live streamed on the city Facebook page. I've explained to people we looked into meeting here when we got started. We got 9 people together. We compared our schedules, and we ended up the second and third Thursday of the month is when the holes in our Swiss cheese all lined up and we could find a time to meet. As you know, council chambers are used by the police and fire merit commissions on the second and third Thursdays. So that's why we're meeting at the library. I'm not a technical person on social media stuff. Of course, there's Wi-Fi available at the library. It's, I believe, technically possible to live stream it, the meetings to the city's Facebook page. We don't have the technical capability or anything to do that. So I want to make you aware. We've had those requests. I'm not sure what all is involved. If that's possible to happen or what would be involved in making that happen, I'll leave that in your capable hands. But we have had that request from some members of the public. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you for your work with the Ethics Committee. I know it been going really hard and strong. And on behalf of Mr. Robinson's and other pretty more, it's kind of really, he kind of sparked the idea of getting this whole thing going. I appreciate you jumping on board with the committee and the work that you guys are doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you for saying that. We've got the resolution has laid out the work we're supposed to do, and that's where we've been working on it, I think, pretty diligently. Expect the schedule we set at our very first meeting. We expect to whatever final report we do. Our plan is to approve that at our meeting in September, and have that back to the council. Say late September, early October.
Thank you. I applaud you. Thank you.
Dr. Taylor, if you finish that and you want to address the council again, you can always contact President Dishman and get moved up on the agenda under committees. That way you'll have a bigger audience and you won't have to wait as long. So
Okay.
I appreciate your patience, but you fit fine under committee reports.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, thank you. That's good to know. I used to work in local government. I'd ever go to a ball game without a scorecard. So I have weird ideas of fun. So thank you.
thank you.
Thanks. All right, Joseph Romero.
Well, Nora Powell, thank you for reminding me about this meeting today. And I want to thank you all, here that have been embracing me. Last month, we talked a lot about Muncie, and a lot of you found out about my work with the homeless and what I do out there in the camps and things like that. Since Saturday, we had so many of you that I met you at the IDEA conference, and I'm starting to realize that the work is being noticed by the city of Muncie, the residents of Muncie, and a question's coming up a lot of time. How can I help? A lot of people want to know, how can I help? I want to help the homeless. I want to do something. And I'm educating people that if you're really interested in getting involved and making a difference in the community, it is great to get involved with those who are already doing the work. No sense in reinventing the wheel. Since last month, we've started having services every Friday night at the Warming Center. For those of you that know Robert Hunt Warming Center, I am there all the time. But every Friday night, we do have an actual church service for the homeless, the community, and many people are coming. This is just one of the opportunities for residents who want to get more involved. You can go to our website, and it is the Shepherd's Heart and Hands. We have a volunteer page for anyone who wants to volunteer. What kind of volunteers? People want to bring food. People want to serve. People want to get to know and bring blankets and coats and jackets. We do that on a regular basis. I'm still going out to camps on a weekly basis on Saturdays, but Friday night is an opportunity for all of us to fellowship. My phone number is 765-365-7787. And I give that number out because I give it out to the homeless. I want them to be able to get a hold of me. And first thing we always do is evaluate what's going on with them and connect them with the resources that are available, whether it's a shelter, rehab, whatever the need is. There's a lot going on when I evaluate a person. But I wanted everyone to know, if you got to ask the question, how can I help? That is the link on my website. How can you help? Some of you might want to get involved in our building projects. Yes, we're working on housing as well. I'm very concerned about low barrier entries, and I know I'm going to have to get my own land and lots and get building committees together to do this. Hopefully by August, we will have a couple of homes started already on land that we already own. So we're very diligent about wanting to solve problems and work with y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Taylor Faisal?
Okay, I just have a short comment I'm just going to read to you all. That's very echoey. Sorry. Can you hear me from right here?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. So I have been a resident of the industry neighborhood for nearly 7 years and a resident of Muncie for almost a decade. For the past few years, since I've been attending the city council meetings, I've rarely missed one. I'm a senior in the Ball State Bachelor of Social Work program, for which I'm working with Urban Light Community Development and our local Habitat for Humanity. In partnership with multiple community members, Habitat recently hosted several community workshops where we surpassed our expected attendance at each one. Excuse me. The week prior to and the week of our workshops, I emailed each member of the City Council at their emails listed on the city website, including the personal email of Mr. Dishman. Yet I was disappointed to not have heard back from a single one of you, several of whom I interact with at many other community events. As someone else mentioned, at the IDEA conference this weekend, I was even more disappointed when one of the City Council members made a point to encourage citizens to contact all of you through their emails. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm anxious.
That's okay.
Okay. Made a point to encourage citizens to contact you through the emails you have listed on the city website. In the future, I would just like to ask you all to get to know us community members so you know who's in the room with you when you make public comments such as those. And I also ask that you regularly check your emails and attend more community events that allow for in-depth dialogue with one another and that build bridges and foster relationships, just like the ones you all missed in February. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I? Sorry. Yeah, I think we were both at one that she sent to us, actually.
Was that an event you held at Union?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we held one at Union. We also held one at the Bewley Center. We held one with the police department that was internal for them only. We held one at Habitat. That one included the concerned clergy. More police officers showed up from or to that event that had also participated in the previous days of events.
The reason I asked, I was at Union for that one.
I was
Okay.
also. Yeah.
Well, I emailed you and I didn't receive a response and I didn't know that you were there. So I apologize for not seeing you there, but I just
was
am
a great
encouraging you all to participate in that.
Understand.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know, though.
Mr. President, Mayor. Ms. Faisal, Mr. Dishman knows, and he's having that same problem with his email. The last month, I have not been able to access any city email on my computer, iPad, and I think that's the problem with most of us. They did change our emails, and they changed how they do things, and I can show you my iPad tomorrow. You can hit the inbox. Nothing since December has shown up on my, so the council members are calling me and letting me know I had to take a picture of Mr. Gibson's email today because they changed our emails and it's not overlapping. So I apologize that most of us are having difficulty receiving emails.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question then?
Please do.
So you said you've had this issue since basically the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
How long did it take for everybody to realize they were having this issue since it's been 2 full months?
I took my iPad to them and it worked for a day because I had to take off work because you have to physically bring your iPad
For tech
sit
help.
there with their IT person because you have to put and I went there and did it in January, I believe. It worked for a couple of days and I was just like, and it did.
Do you all receive daily emails regarding your position on the city council?
We should, some of us do, yes.
So that every day someone should be, if they're noticing they're not getting emails, they should be following up with the tech assistants, right? Okay. But I do appreciate you letting me know that you're paying attention.
Mr. Dishman for sure is having the same problem, so.
With your personal email as well, that's stated on the
my
website?
personal,
No, I'm talking
the city council.
No, Dishman, I believe, is the person that also has their Gmail account connected. So did you receive my email on your personal account?
I sure didn't see it.
Okay. Well, maybe go back and check. It's from a habit.
Any spam call and stuff on my phone too.
Okay, the email address I sent it from is a munciehabitat.org email, so it's pretty official.
I will check.
I appreciate that.
It is, I apologize to you.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm having the same problem. I should have a new one in my mailbox.
Yeah, he ordered a new.
Oh yeah, you guys did your selection of new tablets that you didn't have to have the ordinance for, but you were all prepared. I forgot.
Yeah, and I've been waiting 2 months. Well, since January for a new one. But it should be in my box when I go back there.
I hope so. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Audie Barber.
All right, guys, we've hit on a few things tonight. I noticed the mayor and his administration's already left. We've got these gentlemen sitting over here, and ladies, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen sitting over here that still has not got a contract. Ms. Powell mentioned it earlier. We need to do something for these folks. They're working on they're working without a contract. They can't go on strike. So they're being held captive by the mayor that does not want to give them the raise that he has give to the other public safety, policemen, firemen, so on and so forth. We need to do something for these folks. I've begged and begged and begged and pleaded for 3 months now. Please do something to make sure that the mayor gets these people their raises. These folks are the ones that take care of our slick roads. They're the ones that go out and fill the potholes in. They're just as important as anybody else that's in this administration.
Agreed.
Second of all, we've got a bunch of houses that we've give tax abatements and monies for and so on and so forth for these projects on these houses that doesn't even look like the houses that were proposed, that the building commissioner approved different looks on them. You go by these houses, they all look empty still. A lot of them look done. A lot of them look empty. They've got the blinds closed, got the front porch light on, and that's it. No movement, no traffic, no nothing. We need to check into that and see how many of those are actually been rented to people with low income housing and so on and so forth. The other one I brought up twice already this year. This is the third time, maybe the third time's a charm. Maybe you guys just don't care. But they are getting ready to start a solar farm on Chevrolet lot that the ordinance for the county does not pertain to the city of Muncie because the city of Muncie is incorporated. I'm going to ask one more time, and this will be the last time I ask. I hope somebody brings up the ordinance to adopt the county's solar farm project setbacks and stuff, because if not, we're going to have solar panels everywhere in the city. They're wanting to put them out on Jackson Street. They're wanting to put them at Chevy. When I say Jackson Street, the old Broderick's, they're wanting to put some out there in that area out there. So folks, there's a reason they did the setbacks in the county. Please take that in consideration and adopt the one for the county, for the city, so this does not happen to our city. Thank you.
Courtney Marsh.
Hello, council.
Hi.
I'm going to wrap around to the very first thing that we talked about this afternoon or this evening. My name is Courtney. I'm sorry I missed that part. First, I'd like to thank Jeff Green for his nomination this afternoon. Sorry, I get a little nervous up here. I just wanted to give everybody a little bit more information that maybe didn't hear earlier. Miss Janetta has this amazing place called Fiona's Place. It's located over on South Liberty, and it opens its doors at 7 p.m. every night. That hits below 29 degrees. And we've had a couple of debates over the last couple of weeks with the weather changing, if that rule will change in reference to 29 degrees. But we just want to make sure that everyone's aware that there's an amazing resource here in town, and we'd like for it to be utilized. There seems to be a concern or problem with getting ladies to come in that may potentially need shelter. So if anyone knows any ladies that are struggling with not having a place to be or not being in a safe place, please let them know that there are resources out there available for them. Also, we had talked a lot about tonight with affordable housing. That name or that word has been thrown around a lot. And I don't think that affordable housing is the way to really talk about that, because affordable housing for a lot of people here in Muncie is not affordable housing. The graphics that the lady gave that's not here with us right now earlier talked about people that make anywhere between $24,000 and $42,000 per year. We have a lot of individuals in our community right now that don't make anywhere near $24,000. They won't make that. They don't make that. They aren't able to make that. They make a Social Security check every month. And that's bare minimum. That is bare minimum. We're talking $600 to $900, maybe. But we're throwing around the word affordable housing. That's not affordable. That's not affordable for half the people that are working. And that's sad that we have all these people out here in the world, even though we have amazing resources, and I'm so thankful for that. But we don't have housing where people with a check could go in right now and stay there. They can't. They can't afford the deposit, the rent, the utility issues. They can't afford that. And God forbid, they have a felony on their records. Because you know what? That same pool of people have a lot of felonies on their records. They have a lot of bad ticks on their name. I almost want to bet that everybody up here knows somebody who right now that doesn't make $24,000 a year, period. Doesn't have a felony on their record, period, right? Usually that all goes together. And then let's not even talk about the eviction opportunities. Because if you struggle making $24,000 a year, you almost positively have an eviction on your record. And it might not be within the last 5 years that it's going to cut you off. So when they do those background checks they're talking about, they're going to find it. They're going to find any protective orders that people have against their name, whether it's true or it's false allegations. They're going to find any of that information about felonies, drug convictions, the fact that they do or do not receive food stamps. But what we're not going to find is a place where they can go right now on their $600 to $900 check and rent anything. Anything that is worth saying that is a sheltered home or an establishment in which you could live in. We're talking about the firefighters having a bad place to live. Not saying that they don't, because they do. But we don't have places out here for people to live that we are providing income for. That's a problem. But we're about to get potentially 120 units on a 3-acre piece of land. Where are these people going to park at? In the playground that they so kindly mentioned? Or on the 4th floor? Right? We have a lot of problems in the city. One of them is affordable housing. But affordable housing is not something that you have to be booked in for $24,000 to $42,000 a year. That's not affordable. That's not for our people. That's not. And maybe on Kilgore, on a very busy, as mentioned, state road, that might be the place to put those people, right? But that's not hitting the demographic that we need to hit. It's not hitting that at all. So we really need to come together and we need to get a plan where these people that are receiving income can actually receive housing. Because right now, that's not what we're getting. Thank you very much. You guys have a good night.
And we have Brian Shaw.
Hi there, I'm back. So last time I was here, I tossed out a few ideas for some changes to process or things I thought were worthy of considering. I've not had an opportunity to follow up with an email to anyone. It sounds like since you have email problems, it didn't matter anyway. So yeah, I had a surgery not too long ago and that was kind of tied up with that. So once I get some time, I plan on typing up some user stories and whatnot associated with those suggested changes. And hopefully you contact me and want to talk about them some more. Last time I was here also, there was this Indiana 32 and roundabouts thing. Just curious if anyone has heard anything new about that, because I have not. And then, so tonight, I mean, it's come up quite a few times with like just communication and processes and things like that, right? So the one gentleman and his employee speaking up and being a little upset about the situation. So for a living, I document software, and some of it's fairly complex. So processes don't really frighten me. People can be, I guess, intimidated by these processes that they have to follow. So whatever you can do to help facilitate their education of those processes, I think would be appreciated. And I would suggest that you consider a communication and education committee. One of you could help with that, and then reach out to people throughout Muncie who might have, say, a background like mine, maybe a teacher or two as well, or someone in an education role that can help outline some of these processes, or maybe make some suggested changes to forms and whatnot. I have to be here on this date for step 1, introduction. All right, what's step 2? Oh, it has to go to another committee and be voted upon. And then if it passes, right, then you come to here again. So if they know the details of those processes, whether it's an accompanying piece of documentation along with the form that they fill out or the form itself, right? And it's not something that just has to be beneficial to the general public. There's things that can be beneficial to you. Wait a minute, where are we on this next step and whatnot? Okay, if you got the form right there in front of you, you know, step 1, you need to introduce it or you need to pull it off of, or we need to change it from a resolution to that. And of course, you have attorney counsel here, to help guide you with that, right? But it just, in my business of documentation, if you've got the forms and you can have like little notes or whatnot that are on the form that kind of give you, all right, next steps are X, Y, Z, right? Process improvement, efficiency, effectiveness, etc. It'll help you not to have to stay around so darn late here at these meetings. So, suggestions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I second it.
Motion second. Adjourn. See you next time.